Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. I am rocking my good. I'm rocking my old mic today because my new mic is something that's going on with it. I have no idea what's going on with it. I think there was a Windows update or something. It damaged my mic. I'm going to do a patron salute later today. I was supposed to do it yesterday. I didn't get around to it, and I think I passed out last night. But I realized that maybe not everybody wants their name to be put out, so I kind of shied away from that. But that being said, yes, giving a call out every so often to the show itself or to people who that's what I mean. I don't know if that's a good idea. This t-shirt thing, yes, I'm going to do a drawing for that today. And I guess that t-shirt would be, I would need to know the person's, I guess, size, and we'll get the t-shirt up. First, guys, I want to thank all the patrons, all the people who subscribe to the channel, all the people who like my videos, even the people who dislike my videos. If you took the time to look at it, hopefully you saw it was being earnest, even if you disagree with me. And even thank you. You guys make the channel what it is, honestly. I think one of my favorite parts of the channel is interacting with the audience. And people are like, dude, your videos are too long, It's like the first 15 minutes, or maybe 20 minutes. It depends on the video. But usually the first 10, 15 minutes is me. The rest is the audience. The rest is the audience. And I've even opened that up to calls. Meaning, if you're around at this ungodly hour, for whatever reason, and you decide you want to call into the show, have at it. Have at it. Let me see. Just making sure I'm up and everything is doing well. There we are. Come on. There we are. That's better. My screen was looking a little weird. So guys, if you've seen the title of this video, I promise you I'm not changing this video into a hit piece. Or changing my channel into going after lefties. That's not what it is. I've made the point in my other videos that there is a distinction. I don't think you can throw people away completely when they are, for the most part, fundamentally on your side. They just have a disagreement on how to get to a particular place. But I think I realized over the course of hearing Cenk debate Kyle and hearing Sam Seder go after Jimmy Dore, I mean, in gross ways, even after the Joe Rogan interview, just gross. I think the crux of the issue, or the crux of the problem here, is something that should be talked about. But because whether you want to talk about it directly or not, that conversation is taking place. These are reverberations coming from the Hillary Clinton vote. Essentially, this cataclysmic thing of lefties looking at each other and saying, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror in the morning. It's like being in a relationship where you had some just nasty, gross sex that night, just hair pulling, angry at you, taking it out on you. And you go downstairs in the morning, you can't look the person in the eye. That was the Hillary Clinton vote. Like it's like, ugh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't shame myself in this way. There's something in me that boils into me. So I can't do that. I can't do that. Now, the question here, I think, when you get to the nub of it, even though it's in a higher level, it's being this kind of experiential thing in real terms, in real world terms. If you say, this is what this looks like, but what is the crux of the thing from a human concept standpoint? I really do believe it's, do we revolt or do we reform? Like, the thing that the Cedars of the world, that the Young Turks of the world, the thing these guys are arguing is, you need to reform. They hate this argument of revoltists because it means that they are fundamentally wrong and that their strategy has been fundamentally failed. This mythical place somewhere that the world is going to change if you continue to do the same thing that you've always done. It's not just bad strategy. It's also flying in the face of reality. Screaming at the top of their lungs wrong based on reality itself. This is not something you have to look into the future for. What has taken place over the last 20, 30 years? And has the argument of the Cedars of the world, to bow your head. Yes, we're going to bitch in the intervening periods because ultimately I think they do have this idea of what they want. And I think what they want is very similar to what other lefties want. They will bitch in the intervening periods. They may point at a Democrat or two. They may highlight a Green Party candidate and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, brass tacks, at the end of the day, Seder's going to get on MSNBC and he's going to talk about how awesome Democrats are, or maybe Democrats need to make these changes, or whatever kind of thing that MSNBC allows him to say. And he's going to come on the show and he's going to say, vote Hillary. And he's going to give reasons why in the intermediate, if you're only looking at what's in front of you, directly what's in front of you, you have a binary choice, you got to vote Hillary. And not just you have to vote Hillary. It is immoral to do otherwise. It's crazy to do otherwise. They may even code it in these weird Orwellian ways of, this is the radical choice. This is the strategic and radical choice. Vote Hillary. He actually said that. One of the guys who was like, the other woman on that Sam Seder show, he was like, it's the radical choice. We have to be radical. He even coded it in the Russian Revolution. That's amazingly Orwellian. In a defense of voting for Hillary Clinton, you're invoking the Russian Revolution. Do you realize the Russian Revolution had two revolutions? The first revolution they did, there was this thing of, they were trying to keep vestiges of the old guard, of the old system. Those were the reformers. Those were people like you who were still trying to cling to these other things in a system that's utterly failed them. And then you had another one to push back against that failed, that reformist revision of the world. Don't talk to me about revolution and being radical and wanting to get rid of capitalism and then end that sentence with vote Hillary. It's fucking insane. I pick at this because this is important. This is a vitally important conversation. And for the first time in a very long time, the left is actually having this conversation. It may erupt in these things where people feel like, oh man, lefties hitting lefties, that sucks. I agree with you. Lefties hitting lefties sucks. If it's that lefty is wearing a wig and that lefty looks ridiculous, I agree with you. If it's a political point, an honest, vital political point, I don't think they're hacks on this. I think they full well believe this idea of you can reform the party, and if you continue to just vote for these guys, that some magical point will happen where you would get your turn. And you'd be able to let your lefty run free. You'd be, buried naked in the sun, and you're burying your chest to the world. Yes! The lefty vision. No! When has that ever happened? When has that happened? And the sad part about this is, when you had your guy, meaning when you had Sanders, and I agree with you, you vote Sanders. When you had your guy Sanders, he was cheated. Now, I don't know what Sam Seder's argument for this, but Sam Seder, I found a video where he's downing or downgrading the level of DNC involvement in this. And I've even heard videos where he's disparaged this idea that it was rigged. So there's a certain amount of recognition that if it was rigged, and if the likes of me and Uyghur and Anna Kasparian, who likes to point fingers and said, I hate it when people say it's rigged. I hate it when people say it's rigged. The reason why they go against this is because it's a shaming of oneself. It's to acknowledge the utter value of the idea that, yes, not only have I made this line where I've been obsequious to this kind of power, regardless of me bitching in the intervening periods, if you're going to fuck around and vote for that person, I acknowledge that. I have my guy who's in a race. My theory of the case is that you just continue to do what you've always done. At some point, you get your turn. Here's our turn. And they cheat that guy. Now, there is something remarkably bad about somebody cheating another candidate in a representative government because that's all you got. That guy is your representative. If they are cheating him, it is an affront to democracy itself. Now, I've seen Seder videos where he's been really pissed and he's brought people on about election integrity, about Republican election integrity, because he would say Republicans were cheating and gaming the system, and he would be right. Republicans were cheating and gaming the system. Point is, if you're going to point out the idea that Republicans are cheating and gaming the system, and that's a big fucking deal because that's an affront to democracy, I don't understand why you're so lighthearted on this idea of Democrats and Clinton. Let's call it what it is. Clinton cheating in the primaries. If I can show even one instance of cheating in the primaries, if I can show 2 instances of cheating, will the Sam Seders of the world at least say, okay, they cheated us. Now, they rigged it, and justify the vote in the context of, yes, we didn't like it when Republicans were doing it. We thought that was horrible. And Democrats also rigged the process. And in them rigging the process, they subverted democracy. They subverted the voices and the votes of millions of people in this particular country and millions of people who donated to Sanders, their candidate, the candidate they wanted, their theory of the case. They cheated. They rigged the system. What does it mean for you to be a lefty? For you to not like Hillary Clinton's policies for all intents and purposes. You believe that they're going to be better than Trump's. I understand. In an intermediate point, meaning in that specific context, if the only thing you have in the history of time, the expanse of time, is one election cycle, if you don't look at what's going to come up in 2020, if you don't look at what happened in the prior cycles, 2008, 2004, or essentially, you know what I mean, 2012. They make the argument in that very specific context as if history doesn't exist and if the future doesn't exist. Your theory of the case has been, if people vote Democrat in these quote-unquote strategic ways, that something would change. And I'm saying, starting back at Bill Clinton, that has not happened. That has not worked. That has not been true. That has not been true. That has been an utter failure. Again, exponentially an utter failure. This is not, Seder looking in the tea leaves. This is Seder and this guy making the argument consistently that vote Democrat because Republicans are maniacs. I would agree with you that Republicans are maniacs. I've heard Sam Seder even make the argument, if one concentration camp less was built, then I'd vote for the guy who's building one concentration camp less. Essentially the lesser evil argument, the Democratic argument. I don't understand. And here's the difference. It's not that the guy is advocating one concentration camp less, that's the problem. It's that he's selling the fact that he's advocating one concentration camp less, that's the problem, as being this progressive lefty agenda. The problem here is not what's in fact reality, meaning one concentration camp less. It's that they're getting it across in a way that is trying to make this look like it's not a concentration camp less at all. That ultimately this is the left position, meaning that's Republican position, and this is Democratic position. And yes, I'm saying all these things that are lefty and that are euphoric and all this other stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's one concentration camp less. If you're telling me all of this stuff that's euphoric, what the fuck are you building concentration camps at all? And why should I, as a voter, knowing full well that, yes, I understand that this other guy's building concentration camps, but so is this guy. I don't want this guy to build concentration camps. And not only do I not want this guy to build concentration camps, I don't want to be complicit in the fact that he's building concentration camps. Now, what am I going to do about that? If I vote for him and put him in that office, he's building concentration camps, and I've just given him, I've been complicit in the fact that he's doing so. Now, during that time frame, you can justify it by saying, well, the other guy was going to be worse. What happens when the next maniac that you're running against is building 10 more concentration camps than the previous guy that you were running against? And this guy who you voted for says, look, I'm going to build 2 concentration camps less than this other guy. Meaning there's a scaling rate of concentration camps being built, and you're being complicit in that scaling rate of concentration camps being built. At no point do you realize that this system has gone off the rails. They have us in some kind of in a finger trap, and the only way out the finger trap is to not be complicit in the finger trap. Understanding that in the next or one single political cycle that it will be difficult and it will be hard, but it's already difficult and hard, and these guys are already building concentration camps. I don't say it lightly. I say it purely from the point of your way has no exit. They can do that in perpetuity, meaning put up one batshit crazy candidate after the next. Jeb Bush can run in the Democratic Party in 2020, and the next maniac may be Ted Cruz. And Seder would say, look, you got to be strategic. You got to vote for Jeb Bush. I'm making this point that is moving further and further to the right, and your specific, in the moment vote is fucking us over. And from looking at it from what was Bill Clinton, 92, 94, on and on and on and on, it's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse. I'm saying the strategy doesn't work. I'm saying that this is not a lefty hitting a lefty. I'm not saying anything about Sam Seder personally. I'm saying his strategy for this is fundamentally wrong. If you want to have some level of solidarity, have solidarity on the sideline saying, I am done. I'm done. Do you realize Cory Booker and Christian Gillibrand, two corporate Democrats, corporatist Democrats, have come out saying we're not going to take campaign finance donations. We're not going to, I'm sorry, corporate PAC money. Same thing said by Elizabeth Warren, and of course Bernie Sanders was already there. Why do you think they're doing that? Why? Explain to me why. Do you think they're doing that because they have the voters like you who are going to be complicit whatever they do? Do you understand that if Hillary Clinton had won the election, none of that would be taking place? None of that would be taking place. Under your model of the world, vote Hillary and let the Democratic Party stay the way the Democratic Party is. Meaning, what you want would never take place because at the end of the day, they know they always have your vote. They just need to be a little bit less than the next guy. A little bit least worst. Least worse. Take a look at the video for a moment. I want to drill in my point. Guys, when they make this argument to you that voting for Hillary Clinton was some kind of radical and brave choice, please understand that this is utter nonsense. This is Orwellian way of talking about cowardice. Not to mention, it's just bad, flat-out strategy, or just looking at, fuck around at the globe, or looking at the timeline of what's been taking place in regards to politics. This has gotten worse. You had a Democratic president that was literally willing to sell out any level of American sovereignty with this idea of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, followed with TISA, which was going to be even worse. This stuff was corporate giveaways done by Democrats. Getting worse and worse and worse. And regardless of how bad, I mean, it's an amazing thing that Hillary Clinton is running as a Democrat. And yet, you still have their vote. You still have their vote. So, let's say it this way. Jay Scott. Oh, thanks, Jay. Call MR and debate. Don't be a coward. Be a coward for what? If any of these guys, Seder or the other woman, want to come on to this show and have a conversation about why they believe voting Hillary Clinton is fucking awesome, they can come onto the show and debate why Hillary Clinton is fucking awesome. So I'm not chasing down their phone lines and all this other stuff. If they have a conversation, they have the conversation here. That's what it boils down to. And the conversation is specific. Why do they believe that continuously voting for a Democrat, even though that has never worked, that will not work, and even when they had their particular chance, their candidate was cheated, and they minimized the fact that the guy was cheated and turned around and voted for Hillary Clinton. If they want to have the conversation, they can have it here. So let's call it, let's give it that way. Jay Scott, you keep making videos about them. Yes, they keep making videos about Jimmy Dore. So what are you saying? What are you saying? What is your call-in number? My call-in number, well, Sam Seder would have to actually, no. I don't know what the call-in number is. I'll find it. It's on my Patreon page. It's on my Patreon page. Yeah, but patrons are the ones who have the opportunity to call in. But I would make a special thing. I would actually welcome them to the show. I would welcome them to the show. And it wouldn't be a call-in. I would want them to actually have a proper either hangout or Skype discussion. I'm not going to call it debate, because when you call this stuff the debates, it's either win or lose. Look, but my point is, Jay, your point is bullshit. I got to be honest, dude. They continuously make videos about whoever they want to make videos about. Now, your argument is, you're ragging on Seder, man. Yes, I'm ragging on Sam Seder because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And he's attacking Dore in some dubious ways. Not to mention, beyond the attacking Dore, beyond all of that stuff, he is fundamentally wrong. He's fundamentally wrong. I'm going to show you some of the stuff Seder has been saying. Not to mention minimizing the cheating of Sanders in order to make it less gross that you've told your audience to vote for Hillary Clinton, somebody who would no way represent your interests. Let's take a look at this. This is Seder himself. Don't take my word for it. Take Seder's word for it. Let's start at this video.
The thing that I actually like about this Donna Brazile thing, and to a large extent, what she's outlining was a story that was was already reported back in that summer, which is fine. I think what she found was that there was a specific contract set up. And I think to the extent that the Clinton campaign had sign off on who the personnel was going to be at the DNC, I think is probably greater than people understood. But the story of people call it money laundering is one that we knew and we spoke about. And but the best part about this with the Donna Brazile thing is that my hope is, with all due respect, that it will basically quiet. It's a sense that the establishment of the party is moving on from the Clintons. And presumably, right? Like, I mean, presumably, I give it the benefit of the doubt that the reason why there's such concern over, you know, remaining concern over the Clinton folk is that there's some deep-seated fear that she's going to run for election again in 2020.
That is terrifying. But do you think that
but I hope this
where did
puts
this
that
perception grow, including, you know, among some really smart people or, you know, avid news consumers, that the DNC is so powerful? Because I think that's the other thing that comes up in these conversations, the notion that there's some type of like
the DNC
Illuminati
could be,
but they're certainly not.
but we are aware of everything that they were doing.
Right.
I mean,
And when we have all these emails, and it's like, sometimes there's emails that sound tacky, sometimes there's emails that sound borderline unethical or straight up unethical, but there's nothing like, there's this
biggest
general
thing that they
agreement,
did,
which is a problem.
the biggest
It's
thing that
gross.
they did, yes, that agreement was gross, but that's actually not, that is because the DNC was so weak.
was totally broke.
The DNC was more than broke. It was significantly in debt from the Obama years, largely because apparently it was just like a trough for a bunch of consultants. I hope all these consultants get fired too from this.
Well, I think
And
that's
from
the
the
thing
Obama-
that Perez has been. That's another reason why I think Ellison mattered in terms of Perez, because a lot of this is protecting those consultants. And
I think that's
disgusting.
true. I think that's true. And this is a function of how weak the DNC was. The biggest thing the DNC did in terms of taking any action that was supposedly supposed to help Hillary Clinton was limiting the debates.
He can't seriously believe that. He can't seriously believe that. The biggest impact that the DNC did was limiting the debates. The reason why I'm showing this is I'm trying to make this point that there needs to be... Look, if you can make the argument that voting for Hillary Clinton was the best choice, fair enough. Fair enough. Don't minimize the fact that they cheated. I mean, own it. Say, yes, they cheated, but I still think voting for Hillary Clinton was the best. Meaning, absorb the fact that you've been emasculated in this process. Absorb the fact that this is nothing that you want. I don't want any of the things. I agree with everything Sam Seder said up until that point. Meaning, yes, they had influence. Yes, they might have been monkeying around with the process. I don't particularly like that he's like, if they did this for Hillary Clinton. What do you mean if? You don't believe it? Do you think you're unconvinced? This is kind of my point. I don't understand this thing. No, I'm wrong. I do understand this thing. If I had to do something that was gross, and I understood that they cheated the person who I wanted, they completely undermined democracy in the way that they went about their affairs in the primary, and yet and still, I had to vote for that person. Hey, honey, and look, he's gonna bitch. He'd bitch and moan about the DNC. Don't take that away from him. And like I said, all things being equal, when Sam is talking about other stuff, meaning, it's funny. I don't dislike the entirety of the show. I don't even dislike the entirety of Sam Seder. It's this very specific point. This very specific point I think is important, because I think this is where the blow-ups are coming in. This is why they are continuously attacking Jimmy Dore. This is why Jimmy Dore is continuously attacking TYT. It's been played out in the standpoint of Yeah, it played out in the sense of a Hillary thing, but it's being playing out now on the left of what is the left going to ultimately be. There's no way to have a conversation about what the left is without dealing with this very specific issue. Is the left going to be a bunch of reformists who, whatever the DNC do, he's going to bitch and complain. He's like, oh man, they should get rid of those consultants. But at the end of the day, despite that video being named, it's way past time for the Democratic Party to move on for the Clintons. The reality of it is, if Hillary Clinton ran in 2020, Sam Seder would still vote for Hillary Clinton. He would still tell his audience to vote for Hillary Clinton. Still tell his audience. Let's see. Where's this coming from? Where is it? Ah, there we go. Yeah, guys, that's after my conversation. I'm not finished. There's more. There's more. I understand some people don't necessarily like me going after Sam Seder, but I don't understand the leg that you have to stand on seeing as Sam Seder continuously goes after one person after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. So I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Fair is fair. Are you making the argument that Sam Seder is work of God and cannot necessarily be touched, especially when he's going after one person after the next? In this case, Jimmy Dore. I'm saying the thing that he's going after Jimmy Dore over is baloney. It is baloney. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Let's keep going. There's more. And for those of you saying why lefties hitting lefties, don't take my word for it. Take Sam Seder's word for it. Sam Seder is going to explain why it's important for him to attack Jimmy Dore.
Yesterday we had some great calls in the fun half, and one of them was was in regards to a long-running feud I've had with someone who I'm not gonna. It's not necessarily to go into this, but I just want to reiterate one more point, because the argument was made to me: why would you have a feud with someone who you ideologically are simpatico with, right? Because I have a bit of a feud with someone who ostensibly we have very similar, I think, policy positions. And it is because of the similarity in those policy positions that what he spews is what actually is more problematic to me. I don't share an ideology with Joanne Reed. There are some things that we agree on, I would imagine. Just like there's actually, it turns out, some things I agree on with Bill Kristol. Like Donald Trump is bad. But the point is, let's say I was a nutritionist, and there was another nutritionist who was offering a philosophy, who we both agreed it's really important to drink water. And to drink a lot of water. We want to encourage, that's what our agenda is. We want to encourage people to drink a lot of water. And part of that agenda, we're going to hand out free bottles of water. But that nutritionist is handing out water that is slightly sweeter than mine because it has radiator coolant in it. Okay.
So understand what's taking place here. He's saying that the reason it's important to attack other lefties is because they're selling a product that's different. Now, I'm going to give Sam Seder the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he means, when he says selling product, he means trying to get his show more views than Jimmy Dore's. And because Jimmy Dore is doing so well that, you know, it's messing with my product. It's messing with my bottom line. I'm trying to make money here and I can't make money here because Jimmy Dore is outpacing me. I don't think it's that vulgar. I think what he's talking about is what it means to be on the left. And I agree with him, by the way. Not about the Jimmy Dore thing. I think he's the one that's selling, you know, irradiated water in order to try to get certain voters into his camp. I don't know if he's, look, I don't think he's doing this in a vulgar way where it's, you know, I'm on MSNBC, I have a line to toe, and etc. This is kind of corporatist hackish stuff. I don't think Tom Hartman does that. I don't think a lot of these guys. I think a lot of these guys boil down to, I am terrified of what's behind the door. Not realizing that you're stuck in a worsening scenario. an ever worsening scenario, and you're complicit one step at a time down a terror, down a fucking horrifying stairwell. Yes, in the immediacy, these guys are least worse, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you end up moving further and further and further to the right, out of the direction that you yourself want to go as a supposed lefty, at least from regards of what I consider to be a lefty. I agree with him on this. The problem is I take the opposite point of view. And this is why I think this conversation is important. Has nothing. Look, Sam Seder may be the stand-in for this particular point, but you would find this among many lefties who thought that voting for Hillary Clinton was the right choice. This argument could be, Sam Seder could be thrown away in this conversation. You can inject somebody else and you can still have that conversation, but put in Uyghur, put in Kasparian, put in Nomika Kuntz, put in all these different people. It's the same conversation. This is why I'm having this. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bother. You will get more done having solidarity. I'm talking about overall. You will get more done having a certain level of solidarity on this point of, no, I am done. I am doing something different. I don't know what that something different is right off the bat, but I know I am not playing a part in that particular, that hellscape of a marriage. It's like, I recognize that this guy is a drug addict, alcoholic. And please, honey, wash your hands when you're making the kids the sandwich. Please stop putting your foot on this. Please flush your toilet when you use the bathroom. Please stop doing crack in front of the kids. Please stop hitting me after you drink your alcohol. Please don't have sex with the maid. Yeah, you would nag, you would harass, you'd bitch, you'd moan. But at the end of the day, you're coming back to that household and you're fixing him a ham sandwich. You're coming back to that day. And you're getting him tea. You're getting him something to drink. Meaning, when he tells you nobody will love you, you have nowhere else to go. When he slaps you and beats you, when you're embarrassed, voting for Hillary Clinton, explaining to your friends why you have a black eye, at the end of the day, you go back. He counts on it that you will come back. He doesn't have to change. The fact is, the changes that you're seeing in the Democratic Party, if you're seeing any changes at all, and I think those things are more cosmetic than anything else, the Bookers of the world, the Kristen Gillibrands, why do you believe that they've decided to not take campaign cash? They've done that because they believe that they cannot get the votes they need to run in that primary, to pull in a certain demographic of voters that don't trust what they have. They're doing that not because of people who are complicit like you. They're doing that not, and mind you, if Hillary Clinton would have been elected, none of this would be on the table. They're behaving this way because they don't believe that people would vote for them if they behave otherwise. They're not motivated by you. They're motivated by the people who left, the people who are willing to say no, not the reformists of the world or the people who settle. Let's keep going. I have another video. It's not going to be long, but I just want to make a point. In one video, you saw them downplay this idea of cheating. The only thing that the DNC could do is, they just primaries. Primaries. Do you remember when Tom Perez gave that video? It says, we're going to put the primaries, where everybody can see. There was a failure of trust. There was he was using these weird terms, but he was trying to Tom Perez was making the Sam Seder argument that, it's just the primaries. Just the primaries. There was a failure of trust. There was a failure of getting things across in an honest way. There was a failure of legitimacy. There was a failure of this and a failure of that. There was a failure of all sorts of stuff. But in their minds, look, it wasn't that shameful that I voted for Hillary Clinton after they cheated my candidate. Ultimately, because the cheating really didn't take place, it really only consisted of of them doing the debate schedule. It was a hell of a lot more than the debate schedule. Now, I want to show something. Right here. Do you remember this? New York City Board of Elections will admit it purged more than 200,000 voters from city rolls. Now, when you fast forward it to this, you realize that not only did they purge 200,000 voters, it was illegal by state and federal law. Now, people will point to them and say, wait a minute, that looks a little fucked up. I mean, Bernie Sanders won like the majority of New York. The only place he lost was in the place where they purged all of these people from the voter rolls. American citizens not having the capacity to vote for the person who they wanted. Now, that's a little strange. Now, you could say, well, dude, there's no way you can connect that to Hillary Clinton. But is that true? So there was another story floating around, Mother Jones. The story of the great Brooklyn voter purge keeps getting weirder. Some 120,000 people couldn't vote. It was actually more than that, and I'm going to explain that later. What happened? What happened? What happened? Now, I'm not going to go through the entirety of the story, but they're making the case that this looks strange. I mean, what? How are you getting rid of all of these people off the voter rolls in this way? So close to an election, not to mention New York doesn't allow people. I mean, it's like 6 months or so that you have to register to be a Democrat in order to even vote in the New York primary. So let's keep going. I mean, I'm making the point that people saw that this looked weird. I want to add in this story to this. Upper West Side eyesore sells for millions. One of the once elegant brownstones beseeched to fix up the place for $5,000. Now, I don't have a thing, but what the story boils down to is there's a place in New York City that was a house. It was supposedly a nice house at some point. Yeah, the owner of the particular place. That person was paid a dramatically large amount of money, like millions of dollars, for something that wasn't worth anywhere near that much. Now, this would be just random bits of information, but when you look into the person who's paid that money, you ended up on, let's see, this person. In fact, I can't find her name. I'm going to let Lee Camp explain it. Yeah, I'm going to let Lee Camp explain it. But what it boils down to, in a nutshell, to summarize, the person who was the scapegoat in the primary process, the person who purged all those voter rolls, was the same person who got a ton of money from this kind of legal transaction with real estate for something that in no way was the place worth. I mean, tons and tons of more than, like, millions of dollars more than what the place was worth. Now, that's pretty fucking amazing. Why is she getting all of this money for this place that has rats and everything else? You find out later that the same person who gave her that money, who paid for this, was, and to be clear, what I'm talking about is the person who took the heat, or who was fired from Board of Elections in New York for purging all of those voters. The person who said, okay, I did it. You got me. I was the one that did it. Who was the fall guy for this, for purging all of these voters, was the same person who owned that property that was rat infested and everything else, which is also the same person who took a ton of money for that property. Now, the person who gave her the ton of money for that property was a superdelegate for Hillary Clinton. Now, you can look at this and say, well, yeah, that's just a coincidence that the superdelegate for hitting Hillary Clinton in like 2016 or 2014, I'm sorry, 2 years prior, gave this woman a large sum of money for something that wasn't worth the sum of money that she got. And also, that person just so happened to be a superdelegate for Hillary Clinton. And the person who took the fall guy was the person who took the cash in that transaction. I would agree with people if they say Donald Trump was laundering money for the mob. I think I've said on multiple occasions. I thought it was perfectly reasonable to say that if Donald Trump was getting all of this money for property that wasn't worth the amount of money that he was getting off because people wouldn't stay in his properties, that is somewhat fair game. And I do take that stuff as being, well, yeah, that's probably true. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. Now, granted, you have to prove that. You have to show that. But I wouldn't be shocked by that. That's not one of those Russiagate things where they haven't been able to prove and show. Why is this different? Why is this different? You have a person who's affiliated with Hillary Clinton paying off the person who scrubbed illegally 200,000 people off the rolls in Brooklyn. Sam Seder would look at that and say that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence. Let's hear Lee Camp explain it. He can go through it in more detail. He's much funnier than I am when he explains it.
Welcome. All right, last week
last week I covered the blatant election fraud in the Democratic primary, and that seemed to it upset a lot of people. You know, right in here, they didn't feel good. So this week, to make it more enjoyable, as I talk about it, I'm gonna put adorable puppies up on this screen there, and I think we'll get through this. We'll get through this together. You know. So the exit polls don't seem to match up to the voting machine tallies. Isn't that odd? And the voting machines all seem to tend towards Hillary Clinton, while the exit polls all seem to tend towards Bernie Sanders. Isn't that odd? And in 9 of those contests, those exit polls were so far off, they were way outside the margin of error. The odds of that happening by chance are 1 in 90 million. Isn't that odd? Okay, that's your last puppy, so take it in. Take it in. You need to internalize it. Now I want to look at one instance where we know something egregious happened. Over 100,000 voters were accidentally knocked off the rolls in Brooklyn, New York. Isn't that odd? And I imagine it's not that easy to accidentally purge 100,000 people off the rolls. I don't think the clerk at the Board of Elections is like sitting at a panel with one large red button that keeps the election clean and another large red-orange button that rigs the election for Hillary Clinton. And her boss is on the phone going, "Push the red button, not the red-orange button. I repeat, not the red-orange button." And she's like, "I'm colorblind. They're all mauve to me." I don't think that's how it works. But this certainly has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton's campaign. No, the person to blame is Chief Clerk Diane Haslett-Rudiano, who is now getting booted for her error. Although, if it was truly just a simple mistake, then why would she be fired? Isn't that odd? But in order to show she did it to help Hillary Clinton, we'd have to show she's had some kind of contact with Clinton or Clinton supporters, and that just isn't good. Oh, what's this on this newspaper from 2014 that I always keep by my desk? What? I like my newspapers old and wrinkly, like my men. I don't know what that meant. In September of 2014, the Wall Street Journal wrote about a dilapidated Upper West Side brownstone that was sold to a developer. The place's floors had collapsed and stonework cracked. Over the years, neighbors complained about graffiti, garbage, and rats. One neighbor even put up a rat crossing sign. Anyway, this place is a dump. Nobody would ever buy. Oh. The property sold for $6.6 million, $1.1 million over the 2013 market value. Isn't that odd? The owner of the home is one Diane Haslett-Rudiano, who paid $5,000 for it in 1976. That's the same name as that other person. That is odd. She wasn't even trying to sell the place. She was just approached by a buyer offering $6.5 million. Maybe the buyer was a rat collector. Who knows? But alas, this still has nothing to do with the Clinton campaign. Oh, wait. The buyer of the property was an investment group headed by Dana Lowy Lutway, daughter of U.S. Representative Nita Lowy, a superdelegate for one Hillary goddamn Clinton. Isn't that odd? It says here in this newspaper, which has now switched from the Wall Street Journal to the Daily News, because I, like my newspapers, like my men, switch hitters. It says that when they asked Lowy's chief of staff whether there was any potential situation at all in which Nita Lowy would switch her support from Clinton to Sanders, her chief of staff replied, "Absolutely not." None at all? None at all? Like Hillary could walk up on the podium with a pig's head on a necklace like a Flavor Flav clock?
You get his point. You get his point. Now, I don't necessarily believe that it's like everyone at the DNC is moving their fingers and everything else and, making this stuff work. I do believe that there is influence that is peddled. Meaning you have this idea of Clintons being, this political family. There's this kind of mafia sorts. And they have influence just based on the name of who they are and whether or not they can help you in your particular state, or whether or not you just believe that as a member of this particular team, this is the person who you want for this, and I need to do what I need to do to make sure that person is valuable or who's connected. Terry McAuliffe giving that woman all of that money, or in Virginia, in the state race in Virginia, giving the FBI agent's wife a ton of cash in order to run in the race. Now, you could say, well, wait a minute, this doesn't have anything to do with the Clinton campaign. But come on. Like, it's one of those things where after so many coincidences, at which point do you say, okay, that's evidence that it may not necessarily be a definitive proof of XYZ took place. But what we have in evidence is someone illegally, by state and federal law, threw 200,000 people off the roads in Brooklyn, Bernie's hometown. And throwing those people off the roads in Brooklyn, the woman who did it got fired. That particular person who got fired, we find out, got millions of dollars more than what the property was worth from a superdelegate for Hillary Clinton. But look, Seder will look at that and say, yeah, man, that's just a coincidence. It's like saying, it's just coincidence. That doesn't really mean anything. Fair enough. What about Nevada? Now, let's go to a network who also voted for Hillary Clinton in this contest. You may not want to take my word for it. Let's take Jimmy Dore, John Iderola. Ultimately in Nevada, Hillary supporters weren't able to wake up early enough and missed a portion or didn't get the number of superdelegate or the number of delegates they would have typically gotten, because Hillary, I think, won it by a few percentage points. So Sanders and his supporters were supposed to get more delegates. Just based on the natural flow of things at that point, he was supposed to get more delegates. Nevada has a weird electoral system. They cheated, outright cheated, and stole Nevada. Now, I don't know the argument that somebody can make and say, this was not cheating. Even the Young Turks, who ultimately ended up voting for Hillary Clinton, screamed to the top of their lungs, oh my God, they just stole Nevada. Let's take a look at it. Don't take my word for it. Take the Turks.
Violence, and that was all that there was at Nevada. Just violence, with Bernie bros threatening to tear down the whole house and set it on fire. They don't actually show that that happened, and they don't acknowledge that the rules were clearly manipulated. There's video evidence, which we've shown on the show already. They won't admit that, and all of the news reports about this won't admit that either. They try to spin it as Bernie Sanders supporters being pissed off that the rules weren't changed in their favor. When you listen to the vote of acclamation, the voice vote, I mean, nobody can listen to that and not know that the rules were manipulated to benefit Hillary Clinton. But you're not going to trust me if you don't already believe that, and you're not going to trust any Bernie Sanders supporter. So what about a Hillary Clinton delegate from the actual Nevada convention? We have one. So right here, you're going to see Pat Barrett, who our political reporter Jordan Cheriton sat down with, and she talks about what actually happened in regard to those rule changes at the Nevada convention. First, here she is talking about her and the registry.
No, I was privately registered. We had done absolutely everything, done it on time, had the state office confirm it, and mysteriously, and it had been printed online on their site. And then mysteriously, in an email that went out on Wednesday, our names just weren't there. When I went to try and correct it, I was given lots of various information. Really, no one seemed to know what was going on. Eventually, I ended up in a long line outside the credentials committee room. Everyone got to go in. It was very interesting. But I stood and waited for 4 hours. And then they put it back on. And then an hour later, when we were voting in the district rooms, my husband's name was mysteriously taken off again.
So again, this is a delegate for Hillary Clinton saying that she had problems with the registration. Her husband's name was taken off, And so this is giving you an idea of at the very best, the best spin, the incompetence that this convention was run with, or probably attempts to get rid of people, which you're going to hear about in this next clip, which talks about the Nevada Democratic leadership asserting the right to simply scrub whichever delegates they want. And here she is talking about that.
We were on the Hillary side, so the Bernie side voted first, and then the Hillary side voted, and we were told, oh well, each team, in other words, the Bernie team and the Hillary team, the leaders in each of those teams had the right to scrub anybody they wanted to. We went ballistic, and shortly thereafter, one of the people on the Hillary team got a text from the woman who's heading up the Hillary team in Nevada, and she said, no, it wasn't us. That came from the state level. In other words, that came from the chairperson, whose name is Roberta Lang.
Wait, so Roberta Lang was telling delegate team leaders that they could just get rid of whomever they want for no reason?
I don't know what she told anyone. I'm just telling you exactly what we were told.
Right.
But nothing shady was going on. Nobody was taken off the rolls who was supposed to be able to vote there. That's what the mainstream media and the Democratic leadership, both in Nevada and at the national level, would want you to believe.
And apparently Sam Seder. If the only thing that took place in that election was them messing around with the vote totals, then what is the Young Turks talking about here? What is that? Explain that to me. Explain how that fits into the calculus. So, if this is cheating, if this is outright cheating, literally, the state calling into their electoral process or into the Nevada electoral process and rig it in a way that's giving votes to Hillary Clinton, which they did. I think it wasn't a huge number of electoral votes, but that's kind of besides the point. They did it. They were exerting a political influence, whether it's we as Democrats believe we need to protect our workable point of view, in which case we're going to lean in a particular way, or whether it's understood that this is what was going to take place based on some kind of leadership order. I don't particularly care. I'm talking about the way it actually functioned in real world terms. To make the argument that we know everything that took place, how could you possibly, that's such an arrogant position. I know everything that took place in this. How? How do you know everything that took place? Why would you even say that? There's no way to know about everything that took place in any particular situation. There's always ambiguity built into just reality, the way the reality is set up. Look, all I'm saying here is, I understand the point of view of the reformists. That in the immediate short term, yes, these things are horrible. Republicans are maniacs. I get that. I get all of that came to a head in the Hillary Clinton thing. I get that too. I get that if this was unicorns and rainbows and there was somebody who supported my interests, more likely than not, Seder would be on my side. There would be a unison in regards to the left. I don't think this version of the left is so drastically different. I think what it boils down to is, how do you get there? We're in the camp of, look, we've done it your way. And ultimately, you've made us, or you've gone with this idea that aligning yourself with Democrats in some way is going to hold back the night. And in some way, you're going to end up with some better outcome, even though that's not what has taken place. All of the things and the priorities that you want to take place have gotten worse, or most of them. I can't say all. There have been minor changes or incremental changes. I'm saying that way doesn't work. I'm saying that the relationship that you have is not one of partnership. It is one of utter terror. You're terrified of him. It's like, this diminutive woman being terrified of this hulking guy because he rages out at any particular moment. But at the same token, and part of this terror is, I need you to protect us, as opposed to, I need you to work with us. Those are different positions to take. Being afraid of Republicans, so you align yourself with Democrats, is different than I'm aligning myself with Democrats because I believe my objectives we accomplish. That's an actual, real, substantive difference in the way we see these things. I paint a darker picture of this because that's the way I see this, as a darker picture. I see this as a picture with no way out, at least from their standpoint. Their guy was Sanders. because ultimately Sanders gave them a move in that particular direction, more so than anybody else. I take them as being earnest on that. But Sanders was cheated. In a representative government, the person who you wanted to represent you was cheated. He was hit in the knees in multiple ways, in multiple occasions. Even if you want to say the campaign finance, like bypassing campaign finance laws, that's illegal. That's illegal. Like, even that was cheating. The money laundering in the way that they were money laundering. If you can't even come to the position that, yes, they cheated Sanders, maybe not in extreme ways, maybe not come to that trough, but yes, they cheated Sanders. Yes, they hit him in the knees on multiple occasions. Yes, there was weirdness in the way that this election was held. And yes, despite understanding that they cheated Sanders, I voted for her anyway. And I told my audience to vote for her. Guys, if you want to call in, I'm pretty sure people are going to have some feelings about what I'm saying. So feel free to call into the show. I have... Oh, by the way, the people who call in, I need to explain this. My wife kind of made the point of, yeah, dude, people don't know that. Anyone who's donated on Patreon has the capacity to call into the show. The number, I think, is on the front page of my Patreon list. I do that because I want to give something special to the patrons. That being said, it doesn't stop anyone from commenting, and I'll read the comments. Seder didn't have the balls to say, yes, Hillary is crooked, but she's the only defense against Trump. He tried to sell her as a progressive champion. Seder's a sheepdog and bullshit artist. 459 Dorello, yes. I think that's what it boils down to. It's one thing for you to just say, look, I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I hold my covers at night. I'm terrified. My name is Sam Seder and the other woman. No, it's one thing to say that. And to say, I think Trump will hold, I think she can hold back the night. It's a different conversation to try to sell it as anything else. Jeremy, what's happening, man?
What's going on, brother?
Not too much. I imagine you have some feelings about what's being said here today.
Yeah, so I was actually, because I've heard, I was kind of listening to the video and then trying to find some background information.
Yeah, I put all of it at the bottom.
Because, sorry?
I put all the videos at the bottom.
Okay, but I was looking into who controls the New York Board of Elections. So I know from the Lee Camp video and the last video, I guess that was a guy from TYT.
Yeah.
It gives the impression. Yeah, so it gives the impression that it's somehow the Clintons were responsible for doing that, but there has been an ongoing issue with the New York Board of Elections as far as their
selective voting or the selective
voter rolls.
Yeah,
and it's so bad, and it's been going on for so long. You know, in North Carolina, when they're being addressed or they're being, taken a task about their voter rolls, they say, "Why don't you guys worry about New York?
Oh, wow.
Worry about us."
It's
so I don't know how to. I don't know how to link you an article, but I can send you. There was an article in the New Yorker about this, and with the issue with the New Yorker voter rolls, this is an ongoing issue, and I don't think it's confident, but I don't think it was the Clintons can call somebody and told them to do this. This is
no, I don't think that
going on. So I can send you the article. Just let me know. I can
Send me the article. I want to see the article. See, I think here's the thing. I think look, you as a person, well, functioning in a way, you would, maybe kiss your wife and kids, if you have a girlfriend or whatever else, play your Xbox, watch YouTube, but your life is not set up in a way with regards to politics. Like, ultimately, your life is the interactions around you, and you're normalized to the things around you. You have a job, you go to that particular job, you work that day. How you interact with Bob or Tim or Susie for the most part is somewhat of an honorable thing. You don't necessarily do anything to backstab or anything else. But that's the situation you're normalized to. I've told this thing before where Richard Nixon put up a woman in his testimony. He's talking on a videotape or something like that, or some kind of tape, and he's talking about how he put this woman up for a position that he knew the woman was going to lose. Like, he did this purely because he wanted to tar this idea of women in government. He wanted to make sure that I want to get credit for putting her up, meaning the press will say Tricky Dick might be a Republican, but Tricky Dick is putting up a woman for this office, knowing that that woman is going to fail. So he can turn around and say, well, look, we tried. Women are not up to snuff to do this particular position. Now, anybody else, if somebody said that, they would be like, there's no way. There's no way Richard Nixon would do that. That's insane. That's nobody would be that, that think that far into fucking somebody over. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The CIA was talking about bombing Florida in order to come up with some pretext to attack Cuba. This is stuff that they do. Now, am I going to be shocked if somebody who just, A, believes that Hillary Clinton is the best person for this, or B, potentially gets money through backhand channels for certain behaviors? You have to admit that is mighty bizarre. This woman who's a super delegate for Hillary Clinton gets far more than she would get under normal circumstances. And she just so happens to get rid of all of those people, like 200,000 people illegally through state and federal law, off the voter rolls. Come on, man. You have to admit, that looks a little odd. Now, I'm not, and I even said before, it's not a smoking gun. It's not one of those things that this is exactly what took place. I'm saying.
Well, do me a favor then. Do me a favor.
Go for it.
I don't know if the original leak cam video has the source for that article. But if you can post the source.
Yeah, I did. I looked them up. So the ones at the bottom that Lee Camp was, the Wall Street Journal, that's one. I put that at the bottom. You have to be a member for that one. And the other one, there's a few. There's another.
A member of what? You mean Patreon?
No. Wall Street Journal requires you to.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
To like pay for them to actually watch those videos.
Yeah.
Washington Post, you can just go through. This sounds bad. You can just go through your private channeling, and it would allow you to see the video. But Washington Journal is a little bit more crafty. But no, I put them at the bottom. They're all of them at the bottom.
Okay.
And all I ask for you, Jeremy, is, come on, that's a little odd. Like, that's.
I look at it, but until I look at it for myself, I'm not gonna.
No. I'm not saying
30-second leak cam video isn't going to convince me that that's the truth.
No. It's not. What I'm not trying to convince you that this is the exact thing that took place. What I'm asking is that odd? If all of those things are true, I mean, mind you, these are, mainstream articles. It's not something that's coming from like some just weird website. If the events that I'm telling you about are true, that looks odd. I'm not saying it's a conviction.
But if I'm telling you that the New York election committee was run by Republicans, what would you say to that? Like, I mean, we have to figure that out. But I'm not going to take that. Like I said, I'm not going to take a leak cam video as truth.
No, that's fair. That's
fair.
I
hope you look into it too.
No, that's fair.
If it comes out to be the fact, if Lee Camp is right and Hillary Clinton was literally responsible for the voting, then I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit for that, for sure.
I would say look up his things. I pulled all the articles at the bottom, because when I hear stuff like that on when I watch videos, I tend to do two things. I have a bunch of websites up. Because when they hit say something about a website,
I do the same thing.
Yeah. It's like if you look at my where is it? If you look at my thing up here, I have all of these articles related to one thing after the next, and in addition to like with additional sourcing on it, to try to figure out what the hell took place. But mind you, these are two different things, by the way. One is in Nevada, the other one is in New York. I'm just trying to make this point, and I could even push out New York and go to a different place where they're gaming the voter registration or gaming the voting system, like saying we're going to move these polling locations or even the positions that they were taking from Deborah Wasserman-Schultz. At the end of the Nevada thing, after cheating Sanders, Deborah Wasserman-Schultz, who's supposed to be completely impartial, comes out scolding Bernie Sanders, saying you need to attack
I give you Nevada. I give you Nevada.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make this point that it went beyond polling. I mean, or it went beyond it just when they're having their debates. It went far beyond that. I don't understand this. It's like, don't minimize it. That's all I'm saying. Don't minimize it.
You have because I don't have the window open, so I can't see. If you have your pen and paper in front of you.
Yes, I have my pen and paper.
Here's the article. It's called "The Problem with Voting Rights in New York." It's in the New Yorker. It's dated October 11th, 2016.
Okay.
I can post it to your Patreon as well, but so I can see that. I'll take a look at the articles that you referenced, and I'll try to. I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for
The Washington Post.
I don't want to pay for
but,
it. I pulled I pulled that article up, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
But I would say if you Google the part that he's talking about, at the very least, there should be something somewhere that would give you a little bit more context on it. So.
Okay.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you calling in. Oh, and I know you disagree.
Yeah, but
go for it. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I was gonna call. I mean, my larger point for the reason why I wanted to call in is because when I sent you this, I called you out in the super chat. I called you a coward. So,
because I didn't call Sam.
No, because honestly, I want to like push you in a little bit because I think. Because I watch you and I watch Sam Seder, and I'm a fan of both of you. I participate in both of your chats.
Yeah.
Seeing is there is a part of both of the communities that are kind of converging, but then there's still kind of the hard-nosed side. I'm a reformer or I'm a revolter.
Yes,
I mean, I think for the most part, for the revolution side, honestly, the reason why they always call out Jimmy Dore or put Jimmy Dore's names in their videos, they're trying to call him out. Come to the mat and wrestle.
Call him out to what?
And the guy,
I mean, Jimmy Dore is always
to have this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
To have to continue this discussion. I'm assuming you kind of understand, how it kind of originated. Yes. But I'm not sure, like, other people understand how it originated. So,
well, the first time
it triggers me.
Heard about it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the first time I heard about it, Sam Seder kind of ambushed Jimmy Dore on the show, and asking him about Hillary Clinton, saying, it's dangerous. You're pushing this stuff that's dangerous and everything else. And I got to be honest, he's been a smug asshole. And this is coming from somebody who, like I've said before, I don't dislike Sam Seder. I dislike his point of view on this. But come on.
But that's not how.
Go ahead. You say it's not. Say it again.
That's not how it happened.
Oh, okay. So how did it start?
So that original debate. So the original debate that all of this. They actually spoke the night before. They emailed each other the night before to set up a call the next day. So this was a planned call. It wasn't an ambush.
No, the topic was an ambush. Like they made, if you remember, at the very first part of that, Sam Seder is explaining to Jimmy Dore what they're going to talk about. I mean, I put it this way: I don't think Jimmy Dore went into that conversation thinking that they were going to have a real debate. Let me say it that way. I could be wrong. I'll find that video again. I didn't have that impression. Where
Jimmy Dore, there was a debate when Jimmy Dore's on the call and then having kind of, I mean, they're both meetings. So they're having this little back and forth about Jimmy Dore saying, "Oh, you ambushed me," or whatever. Yeah, I ambushed you. But then he says, he's trying to tell everybody that he did it the night before to set up the call. I mean, however people want to interpret that, but as far as my understanding, it was a planned discussion. But what I was going to say is that since that discussion, when they're calling out Jimmy Dore, when they put Jimmy Dore in their titles for the videos, because they want to continue that, they want to continue to have that discussion, and I think it's a discussion that needs to be had.
Agreed. Let me say it this way: if that's their goal, if their goal is we just want to have a discussion, so we're just calling out and trashing Jimmy Dore,
maybe they're going about it the wrong way. I agree.
Well, it's not even that they're going about it the wrong way. They have a show, and in pursuing their show, this is what they believe in. I don't know if you can say they're calling out in that sense. I think Sam Seder
they're calling them out. It's so visceral. Yeah.
That video.
I mean, it's gotten that bad.
Well, wait. The video that I just showed was Sam Seder explaining why he believes that he brings up Jimmy Dore in his videos. And ultimately, it's the same reason I bring up Sam Seder. I don't understand how people have an issue with me bringing up Sam Seder when Sam Seder attacks anybody that Sam Seder wants. And in this case, outright attacking Dore. Now, Dore makes his points. And when the other guy, the work wife, is even come out saying, I don't even know what Dore wants. I don't even know what Jimmy Dore wants. They want the same goddamn thing. They're just going about
I know. That's my point. That's my point. That's my point. But I mean, they both want the same things, and that's why it triggers me. That's why it bothers me so much as it bothers you. Like when I see, because
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when I see like, even some of your videos where I'm just going all in on the comment section.
Yeah.
When I see like just people say like, oh, he's an idiot, or fuck Sam Seder. It's like they both want the same thing. It's just like they won't talk to each other.
Well, it's not that they won't talk.
But they don't talk.
But
it
Jeremy,
is that they don't talk.
But it is a big point, though. Like, let's be honest. It's not. Look, I agree with you. I agree with you on a lot of this. Sam Seder was part of my political awakening. So was Tom Hartman. So was Rachel Maddow. So was what's the other guy?
But your point is, Jimmy Dore doesn't have to talk to them.
No, that's not my point. My point is, we're at an interregnum on the left. I mean, this is a point where for the longest time, we've never really examined this thing of working with Democrats. I mean, right now it seems like a spotlight is put on what is the left? Not from the standpoint, mind you, of what the left wants, but in the standpoint of how does the left get what the left wants. That's the focus. It's like this hyper focus on that one specific point in this inglorious moment of Hillary Clinton running, and you have half of the left saying, fuck that, and you have the other half saying you got to vote for her. That's what it is. That's the crux. Now, people, to your point that you're making, and you're right, people don't disassociate those two things. Meaning they don't disassociate. Yes, there's certain factions of the left who believe that conformity is not horrible and you have to play this particular game. But those people still want what you want. Like, so it's like, it's like, I guess my feeling is you can't throw them away. Like, you can't just throw.
We need each other.
Right, exactly. And it's, I think, even in my other video, I kind of made this point that Jimmy Dore is closer in my sandbox than Sam Seder is, but Sam Seder is still in my sandbox. I still consider these guys the left. I know, and I get annoyed greatly when somebody says, we're the definitive left. Like, and even Seaver has said that. Like, he hates this idea that Jimmy Dore is considered the left, we're the real left, and all this stuff. It's like, you guys believe the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. Yep. It's just you guys have a fundamentally different way of getting there. But I got to be honest, that is a big deal. That fundamental that difference in opinion on how do you get to that day in the sun.
But if you think it's a big deal, then why? So I mean, then it should be talked about. Like, so we're sitting at the same table. We're on one side, you're on the other side. We can still have to fucking talk, but nobody wants to have to talk. That's my problem.
I don't think it's that anybody wants to have to talk. I mean, these are shows. I mean, I do my show based on, this is just me. How do I feel about X, Y, Z? What are the character arcs that the person is, that I'm taking, all this other stuff. And
but you guys are voices for voters.
Yes.
So it's not just a talk show.
No,
I mean, you see in your comment section that you reflect the voice of thousands of people.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with that. But that's just
so. I mean, that's
it's not. I think sometimes people mistaken this idea of the shows as being driving people around.
It's not fucking Kim Kardashian. Like, the people that follow you guys are engaged in politics.
Yeah, that's true.
You guys who are like to watch you guys twerking or doing stupid shit. They're following you because they are engaged. They care.
What I would say this is. I invite almost anybody to come onto the show if they want to have a conversation. When I think the person is sane. Now, and I put that caveat in, when I think the person is sane, because I think there's some insane people out there, and there's no way to be in front of somebody who's insane. Cornel West one day asked this question, just like, how does sanity face insanity or something like that? What does a sane person look like dealing with an insane world? But for all intents and purposes, man, Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with your fundamental point. This thing of we're in the same sandbox, and however that goes, we need to some degree work together. Now, the way you get to work together, though, I think, is there's a part of the party. I don't believe that this is the same party, if I'm being honest. I think if you had a different
You don't
party,
believe it's what?
I don't think it's the same party. Like, people may say Democrats, but I think there's been a sharp division in how people would consider themselves, and I don't think those people consider themselves Democrats. I think the Seders of the world are saying, look, we need to kumbaya and we need to get along, but it's like, yeah, but not get along in that way. Yes, we're with you if you have a candidate who's representing those particular values. No, we're not if you're not having that candidate represent those values.
Exactly.
The problem here is the Seders of the world don't accept the perspective of the I don't want to call them revolutionaries because they're not necessarily revolutionaries. They're not trying to tear shit up. I mean, but they are trying to say.
But it goes both ways, though.
Yes, grudgingly, yes.
Everybody, the revolutionaries don't respect point of view.
We don't respect.
So it's like we're in a. It's like we're stuck.
Because it feels like that point of view is wrong. Like if they were right, and they're saying, you got to get out there and you have to be active and you have to have activism and you have to vote somebody who you dislike in office, but push the person when they're in office, and you're like, has the unions gotten better? No. Have they did anything in regards to making unions stronger? No. Has trade or has workers gotten better in the United? No. Has their wages risen? No. Has pop? No. These are things that Democrats are supposed to believe in.
Yep.
When you have one president selling out labor, putting a knife in the back of labor when you're talking about NAFTA, when you're talking about even moving on from NAFTA, going into the last administration, Obama was trying to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was literally giving us sovereign territory. I'm just making this point that.
But I know that. But if I participate, I watch the show every day.
Yeah, I guess.
When I'm in a chat room, people in the chat room are screaming about the guillotines. Literally ready to start because they're so fed up.
Yeah.
It's not like if you go to Majority Report chat room, people aren't saying, "Oh yeah, we love Joe Manchin, we love Elizabeth Warren." No, those people are fed up as well.
Yeah.
To vote for these people. So I don't want that. It's like a misconception that they're people that follow Majority Report are excited for these assholes.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, this is what I mean, man. I don't want
Jimmy Dore saying.
Yeah, this is what I mean. The reason why I try to be very clear that what the division is, like the very specifics of the division, is because I don't want this. I want this to be more intellectually engaged. I don't want this to be that guy did this, and so that guy just sucks. And it's like, you understand, that guy is on your side under normal circumstances. Like, the 99.9% of what you want, that guy also wants. That part, or the thing that you bump your head on, is how do you get it? How do you get it? How do you get it?
Exactly.
I don't think Seders are excited. I didn't think they were excited for voting for Hillary Clinton. Like, I granted, I think they're trying to.
No one was excited.
Right. I think they were trying to defend the vote. Okay, don't get me wrong. But I don't think they were excited. So no, I don't have. Look, I don't want anybody to get the impression that I think that these guys are horrible and all this other stuff. I don't think so.
Dude, you call them bitches, basically. You call them like.
Yes.
Their work wives. You call them out.
I am being derisive. Yes, I am.
So you give that impression.
I am being derisive.
That impression.
But if you click into the video, I tend to make that point of you can't throw these guys entirely away, and that the main point of the argument is.
I watch your videos. You said that they suck each other's tits.
But come on,
I have the same way, so I understand. I understand because I get.
Wait, Jeremy, hold on. Wait. Even in those videos, even in that video, I did make this point of the real crux of this particular argument is XYZ, and that ultimately these guys are not bad. These guys are in your team and around your sandbox.
Yeah, I get it.
I've never diverged from that. Don't get me wrong. I joke hard. I'm sorry.
I'm a product of my environment. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I did say they were sucking.
But I get it. I get the joke. I get the joke, and I joke back at you. But some people don't get the joke. some people see that and then they're like, oh yeah, fucking Sam Seder's a fucking pussy.
Right.
And then some people come in that are Sam Seder fans and they'll say, oh, Jamal's a fucking idiot.
You're right.
And then, but the rest of us are like, yo.
You're right. You're right.
I guess the overall point that I wanted to make to you is, out of all the people that are more prone to the revolutionary side, or who are the best person of that discussion with the reformists?
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate
because
that.
you can speak. I'm honest, because you can speak to. Because I know you say you watch some of Sam's libertarian debates,
I like
but you
Sam
can
Seder.
take it.
I don't dislike the guy. Like that's the main.
I know.
point.
I know.
Yeah, I don't dislike.
But you can take it to the second level, the third level, the fourth level. You know that's how Sam's going to come at his people. And I don't know if you saw him versus Tim. I didn't go well.
He ate
but
Tim
as far as
alive,
like
yeah.
So as far as a spokesperson. So as far as like a spokesperson to kind of have this discussion and kind of like mend, kind of just fences or whatever, I think you're a better spokesperson than Jimmy Dore.
I appreciate
to be quite honest.
I appreciate that.
I just want somebody to kind of start this process.
I saw that debate with Tim Black. Now, it
was horrible.
It was horrible. Yeah, I've watched a lot of Sam.
But it was simple trap. It was simple trap that Tim just didn't see coming. That you would see coming.
It was a lot of Sam Seder. I keep telling people, man, you may dislike the guy, but don't sleep on him. He is not a slouch. I don't understand these people who think they can just randomly call Sam Seder and just jump on Sam Seder. He is not the guy, man. He is not the guy. I think part of the problem is when people have those conversations, Seder drags you into these worlds. And it's like, defend your position in this world that I've created. Now, mind you, this is a world that Sam Seder has created, but you've already accepted certain things to be true, in which case now you're fighting in this box.
Yeah, he sets people up for sure.
Yeah, man, he eats libertarians alive. I've sat there and watched those debates for hours, and I'm like, holy shit. Now, mind you, they're libertarians. They're trying to defend something that's kind of gross.
They can't defend that.
Yeah, they can't defend
it falls apart once you start talking about infrastructure.
Yeah, once you bring it up, it's like one piece is like, so you're okay with the 1% having that much power in this environment? Well, I don't think they're going to have. I mean, they talk about this weird egalitarian world that they're going to believe takes place, with this kind of corporatist hellscape. So, Jeremy, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate you having this conversation.
30 more seconds. Can I get 30 more seconds?
Yeah. Talk. What's going on?
Say, like, even if so I know you want them to call into the show, even if and I'll try to call in and reach out to them today. But even if you just reached out to Michael Brooks, Sam Seder, or Matt Leck on Twitter, and just said, I would like to have a discussion. We could set up a platform, and just talk about what we want to talk about and set up the margins. They will be receptive to it. And if you say, I would like to have you come on to my show, likely they will do that.
I'll think about
that.
So I may do that. I may do that. Of course, I'm always
we can't.
I've called the guy the other woman. It's a little weird to bring him on the show after joking him.
Yeah, you might have to put on a couple of more videos.
Well,
I gotta hide that.
I'm joking. Like, when I go after people, man, sometimes this stuff is jokes. I grew up. Look, people are products of their environment. And I grew up in a barbershop playing chess, where we're talking shit to one another, brutally talking shit to one another. This is nothing. This is nothing.
Just laugh it off. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, it's nothing is meant.
But we can't go into 2019 still having these fights.
Yeah, I feel you.
You know what I mean? At some point,
I guess my feeling is these fights are not there perfunctory. It evolves from the position itself, if that makes sense. It's not like I take Sam Seder's argument as being genuine, if that makes sense. I take all of those guys as being honest and genuine in the things that they want and they're trying to accomplish. I don't think it's here's a bunch of cash. Now, no, I don't think that. I think they bring earnest. People have given me shit because I said I think Cenk Uygur earnestly wants XYZ. I think he wants money out of politics. Now, you always hit your head though on when you're getting to an election. It's 2019, and it's will you support X or will you support Y? Now, there's no bridging gap on that because that's a binary crucial choice. There's no,
and I think that's also part of the problem because we don't. If we knew we could have a more kind of formal, structured conversation. Right now, it's all theoretical, and everybody's just going everybody's going stir crazy.
You know what? That's a good point. Like there is no left forum in that way. Like there's no like Nick Brana is probably doing the best on that, like the People's Party thing where you have all these people in this particular thing. And not just that, I would wager if the People's Party existed, meaning if it was something that was significant and if it was something that they believed that could be another option,
we would probably coalesce around that. Yeah,
they would support it.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my point. It's like be very clear on what the lines of the argument are because you don't want to throw these guys away in totality. That would be a bad idea. These guys will support you under certain circumstances, and it's like being aware that yes, these guys are still in my sandbox. I may joke hard on my show, meaning yes, I did say he's suckling on the tit of another guy. Yeah, that's true.
I was saying some bad shit to you back, so I get it. That's all good. It's all good.
Oh, yeah,
but so like for me personally, like I started I joined the DSA chapter here in Massachusetts. I joined the Workers' Party here in Massachusetts. Other things
speaking
here
of that,
in Massachusetts.
I reached out to the DSA in Virginia. So there's a Richmond, Virginia division of the Democratic Socialists of America. I reached out to see if they'd come onto the show to talk about their plans, what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and
the
thing that I like about the DSA is they think about like politics, like electoral voting politics, but also they'll set up a day out the week where they bring out all the chapter members and they just fucking go clean out a yard or a schoolyard or have some alleys and
that's amazing.
So they're very they think about politics in terms of the kind of the structural process of it, but they also are very active in the community. So I like that about them. But again, just think about it. I think again, if anybody's going to be the voice, I mean, we can't throw Tim Black. That's not going to work. I mean, I honestly do think you have a good idea. You have a good kind of notion. Your stance is solid. You believe what you believe, and you can articulate it well. And I think you are. I would put you up there as far as like one of the better representatives to kind of speak to your stance. So again, just think about it.
I will. It's
until you do it. I'm just gonna
it's funny.
Tough shit in your comments.
Starting on it's like when I started the video thing, I didn't necessarily take it into account. It's like, yes, you're doing videos, but ultimately you're just sitting in your room. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily fully realize that there are other people who are watching your videos. I remember I joked somebody pretty hard, and I ended up meeting that woman. It says, okay, it's reconnected. I lost connection for a bit. My channel helps. So I was going stir crazy, like earlier, before my channel started. And all of the stuff in politics and history that I had read and started following just world news closer. And you start getting to this point of like, why is this taking place in the way that this is taking place? These people have to be utterly insane in the way that they function. And then you delve into politics. And it's like, once you get a historical context on some of the stuff that takes place, it pisses you off. I started getting overly verbose to my wife about this stuff. And like to anybody who would talk about it. And I realized I was overlooking the people who I was dealing with. And so
you started lashing out,
right. And so at some point that became, all right, I'm just going to talk on my camera. And at some point that became, all right, I'm going to talk on my camera in my room. And then a video, and then this, and then that. And slowly it became the channel. The channel is my out. When I'm getting pissed off, I am actually getting pissed off. When there's sometimes where I think it seems like I'm a little bit more annoyed than what I am, but it's just getting it out. I try to be honest when I do something. And so there may be some videos that I don't particularly like because I feel like okay, those videos were forced, but there's some videos that I gravitate towards more naturally.
Right.
If I am getting annoyed, I am getting annoyed. If I'm getting pissed off, I'm getting pissed off. If it's something that happens in politics that annoys the shit out of me, I'm probably going to get on here and scream about, being annoyed the shit out of that particular thing. I try to get it out. And I try to say, look, this is my perspective on events. This is how I feel about it. And if this is, some indignation about it. Now, sometimes I get pushback. And it's like, dude, I understand you feel some kind of way about this, but you're an asshole because of, because you wear hats. But that's how I get it out.
Yeah.
This conversation with you, like, the reason why I have this open, I open this up because I know there are going to be people who completely fundamentally disagree with what I'm saying. And if I'm saying something, I should be able to hold my shape in saying it. Or otherwise, you just say, okay, you're right. Now, I find it's better to say, okay, you're right, as opposed to defending a position that that's not necessarily right. I call that honesty when I'm having debates and having conversations in that way. This is how I get it out.
Yeah.
This is literally how I get it out. If I could wake up every day and do this as a job, this is what I would do. Like,
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's self-affirming. It's this thing of it's not alienated labor. Yes, it's labor. Yes, it becomes more intensive the more that you do it.
You're passionate about it. Yeah.
Yes. Right. It's your platform, and it's like the more it grows, the more I guess you get this kind of reality of, holy shit, there are people actually listening to something that I'm saying. But that's how I get it out. That's how I get it out. Otherwise, I was going nuts. I was going crazy. My wife, it was bugging the shit out of my wife. Like, she was like, God, can we talk about something other than politics? And it's like, how can you talk about something other than politics? The world is falling.
Do you know what they're doing in Syria?
Right. It's like, there are people being murdered. It's like, if they killed your mom, what would your response be? It's like, there are people losing their moms and dads, and there are people fucking dying, not to mention people in poverty. Yeah, she was getting overloaded. So when I started my channel, the overload lessened. I'll say lessened. She'll disagree with me, but it lessened. You lessened. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, brother.
This. And I will think about Michael Brooks. I don't
think about it.
These are videos. If I'm being honest, these are videos I don't like. Like, these are videos where I'm like, I cringe at when I look at it.
For me, I mean, they're tough to watch for me. Because when I watch them, I just want to, like, rip your head off. Like,
I cringe at doing it.
Because I feel, for whatever reason, like, I like Sam Seder, but, like, I like you too. But for whatever reason, it's just, like, the Incredible Hulk, it's like, I just have to attack Jamal.
But when I watch,
for what? I like
Michael
both of them.
Brooks, thank you for telling me his name. When I watch Michael Brooks go after Jimmy Dore, and going after him in a way, even going so far as to say, he hasn't suffered enough to make the argument that he makes. Completely, and then calling the guy, and I know Jimmy Dore was calling him dumb and everything else. Fair enough. I think he was using it in the context of like a useful idiot. I didn't like them going after Dore. Do you realize when I watched that video, I watched maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes, and had to wait hours to watch the other minutes because it was hard to listen to him go after him in that way.
Yeah,
he wasn't attacking him.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Mind you, he wasn't attacking him on position. Some of the stuff he was attacking him on wasn't even true. Like, it was aggravating to watch.
But here's what I'll say to that, because I watched your initial video. Yeah. So I agree with you as far as when Mike talking about like what has Jimmy been through. I think what he was trying to imply is like you're in LA and that there are people in like flyover states that are going to be hurt and you're okay financially. I think that's what he was trying to imply.
But how does he know that? Like,
financially okay? They know each other.
But come on, they don't know each other like that. I mean, when Jimmy Dore,
he's been on the show like several times.
Tim Black has been on my show also. That doesn't mean I know everything about Tim Black. I don't think he knows Jimmy Dore that close where he's saying you. For example, as somebody, when I was 17, I was diagnosed with kidney failure. Now this was something that went back ever since I was like 12. They didn't necessarily know what it was. Now, even with healthcare, it's debilitating. Like I've been sick before where one doctor would come in and no clue who that doctor is. That doctor comes in, takes my blood pressure, leaves, and I get a bill for like $200 from that doctor. From everybody who comes in that was a specialist, you're going to get a bill from, including from the hospital itself. Now, even with Medicare pays 80%. With a $100,000 hospital bill, that's $20,000 that needs to be paid. Now, if you're lucky, you may have
Yeah.
Medicaid, but some of these states don't necessarily expand the benefits. I guess I'm
Yeah.
making a point that if you have an illness at all, you are going to be materially harmed by Trump coming into office. This is an unfair position to make, to say that
Yeah.
I think he
And
hasn't suffered or he
Yeah.
won't suffer enough in this. It's like, come on. That's,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that point too. I didn't know the Jimmy Dore's medical history stuff, but as far as the Neil Gorsuch stuff,
but that's
Brooks
the
was
other
right
point.
about that.
He never said that Neil Gorsuch.
No, Brooks was right about that. No, you have to rewatch the debate. He was advocating for
the debate, but he said Jimmy Dore.
the original one with Sam Seder and Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore was advocating. He was saying that the Democrats could filibuster
Right.
for the entire term.
Yes.
It wasn't like a coulda, shoulda, woulda. He was saying they could do that.
Yes.
And Sam was trying to tell him that Mitch McConnell could break the filibuster so they would only need 51 votes.
Yes, right there. What you said.
That's
true.
that's the point he was trying to get across.
Just to be clear, that's true. But you understand, that's different than saying Jimmy Dore says this is what Democrats will do. There's a vast difference between.
But that's
would.
semantics, though. That's what
not
Jimmy Dore was alluding to.
semantics.
He was saying that. Jimmy Dore was saying this is what.
Jimmy Dore, who
Yep.
believes that Democrats are weak and feckless and that they're not going to stand up for anything, that they only stand up for their donors. You honestly believe that Jimmy Dore believes in that argument when he's saying they could do that, that they would do that. That's not just semantics. That's a difference in what the person actually believes what would take place. It's one thing if you say.
So he was just. So why was he saying it then if he didn't believe it?
Because he said that's
What was
in the
his thing?
same way that Republicans did it. They have the capacity to do it, and that's true. They have the capacity to do it. And yes, Mitch McConnell will rip the filibuster away from them if they tried to do that, which Mitch McConnell did rip the filibuster away.
I'm sorry.
I guess I'm trying to make a difference that certainly there's a difference between could and would. And to replicate the position of it, it's one thing if he said, well, look, Jimmy Dore said that they could do this, and then attack him on that front. That's true. That's a true attack. That's a fair attack. It is a straw man. To say
it's not a straw man, dude. You have to
okay.
listen to it this morning.
We disagree on this one.
Jimmy Dore. You have to you don't have to re-listen to it, but trust me, Jimmy Dore was saying that this is what they should do. It wasn't like, oh, maybe they can do this. He was saying they should do this.
They should do that. Yes, I agree. But that is different than would. Like if you're asking me what's going to take place in 2020, and I'd say, well, I mean, Democrats could run Kamala Harris or Cory Booker. That's different than Democrats are going to run Kamala Harris or Cory Booker. That's
present, past, and future. I understand that.
Yeah, I'm saying the difference between could and would is this is what could.
I think you're better.
I wouldn't. What I think will happen.
So this is what I would say. I wouldn't, when you do, like, if you do future Sam versus Jimmy Dore debates, I wouldn't plant your flag on the Neil Gorsuch thing. I would plant my flag somewhere else, because if someone goes back and listens to that original debate, they'll come across with the impression advocating for them to try to filibuster the Supreme Court. So I wouldn't plant my flag. If I were you, I wouldn't plant my flag on that point.
But be honest. Are you telling me that there is no difference in somebody saying, I think that this is what they could do versus what they should do? You think those things are exactly the same?
He was saying both. He was saying this is what they should. He was saying this is what they should do.
Not should. This is
again,
you're kind of making my point for me. It's if you ask me,
whatever word you want to use, he was saying.
But it's one. This is exactly my point. You yourself are making my point. You're using the
no, I'm
should.
not.
Yes, you are. You're saying should and could. I'm saying there's a difference in saying should and could versus this is what they will do.
He was essentially saying that is my point.
Okay. I mean, I haven't heard you say.
So
he said that's what they are. I've heard should and could. So, but I'll do this. I'll go
re-listen to it. Re-listen to it, and if you still come across if your impression is still that Jimmy Dore is like. Or maybe this is an option. If that's your impression, that's your impression. But that's not. I don't think the majority of people would have that same impression.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I get it.
All right, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you calling in, man. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Have a good one, man.
Later.
All right, guys. If someone else wants to call in, feel free. Anybody else wants to take a piece of my hide over my position on this, feel free. That's why I do a call in. Thanks for sticking up for Jimmy. Jimmy is 10 times the commentator. I like Dor, and for whatever reason, it bothers me when I feel like somebody is attacking Dor. I have no idea why. That feeling is just there. GED, no, that's one of my degrees. Carlo's way too loud. Oh, okay. I'll turn this volume down. Let's see. Who is this? Oh, call back. I'm sorry, guys. Call back. That was a fuck up. Yeah, that was a mistake. Please call back. I need to have an audio person. Cloud Illusion, no, that's not a GED. I have a few degrees. I have Bachelor's of Science with multiple concentrations in math, science, and it was business, I believe. I have certificate from Comp Sci in addition to 2 associates, in addition to another associate's and another bachelor's. Hey, who goes it? What's your name? What's the conversation?
Am I on? Hello? Am I on?
You are on.
Am I on?
You're on.
Hey, this is Luca Clementi.
What's going on, Luca? How goes it, man?
Okay, so I first off, there was a lot of people in the chat who were talking about the sound being really off, and just so before we get too far,
all right, so,
I just want to make sure that our sound levels are not crazy.
Yeah, I'm cutting your sound down. They're saying that your sound is louder than mine. How about this, guys? Is the sound a little bit better? A little bit better.
Yeah, here's a test. Is this my volume okay?
Okay, Pete D says yes, Luca. Yes,
okay,
Luca.
Excellent.
All right, Luca. So, Are you calling to pick a bone with me, or are you calling to agree? What's going on?
Well, I did want to talk about my issue that I have with people like Sam Seder, and it has to do basically with the fact that the 2016 election was extremely complex. There were a lot of complex issues that people had to wrestle with.
Agreed.
We had the cheating of Bernie Sanders.
Agreed.
We had the wild card of Donald Trump, and people didn't really know what to make of that. Yeah. On the one hand, we knew that Hillary Clinton was a neocon, neoliberal war hawk, but she was better on some social issues. And I have a lot of friends who are progressive, who voted for Hillary. I have some who voted for Trump because of the threat of Hillary. And like I myself, I live in Wisconsin, a swing state, and I still voted for Jill Stein because I couldn't stomach voting for either one of them.
Yeah.
So for me, the idea that one side would tell the other side, that like the way, for example, the way Sam Seder approaches things is if you don't agree with him, you're actually an immoral human being.
Yeah, he took it to the level of morality. Yeah, it wasn't, I disagree with you on the vote. It's you're immoral. You're an immoral person if you don't get out there and vote for Hillary Clinton. It's amazing how they cast that stuff. You owed her your vote. That's an amazing. It's not this candidate is going to represent my interests. You just have to give her your vote because Donald Trump is a menace and he's going to eat babies and puppies. It's an amazing argument.
So the thing that's hard to take is when people like say Ben Mankiewicz, or Bill Maher, for example. They act like the adults in the room know that voting for Hillary is clearly the mature, ethical option. And that's not by any means obvious.
No, it's not.
If you recall the election, she wanted a no-fly zone in Russia.
In Syria.
Exactly. She wanted a no-fly zone in Syria, which would definitely have escalated things terribly with Russia. And also, if you recall, not too many years prior, bullshit. We now have open slave markets in Libya. The idea that she would obviously be a better candidate than is not obvious.
No, it's not obvious at all.
That's the part I have a hard time dealing with. I can accept the fact that some of my friends, voted for Hillary and some, that's fine. We're all still on the same side. But this idea that the adults, the mature adults, they know that I just find that a little much, and that's why I stopped listening to Sam Seder.
It's insufferable to hear. I mean, it's massively insufferable, and I don't even believe it's true. Like I would hear them make their argument in these very tight, limited terms. Like, I mean, hey, you should have voted for DACA. I mean, Hillary Clinton is going to be better on DACA, right? But it's like, but yeah, I give you a perfect example. Michael Brooks, in the other piece that he did when he was attacking Jimmy Dore, he was arguing that Jimmy Dore was looking into a future where the election was a worst case scenario, that Republicans would run someone who would be worse than Donald Trump. Now, Michael Brooks looked at this and said, this is fantasy thinking. This guy has this kind of election in his head and everything else. But he's making this argument that Hillary Clinton would have been better on DACA. Again, a fantasy thing. We don't know that. We assume that. I mean, we assume that there are certain things, but ultimately you're saying that Jimmy Dore is making this fantasy. What he's saying is not insane. Does he believe that Ted Cruz is now waiting in the wings? Does he believe that, what better person does he believe is going to take over in that context? Does he believe that, what's his name, Mike Pence is going to be a better option? Like, I don't know the better options in the Republican Party. So when I look at that party, I think, oh my God, there are no better options. So then I'm stuck with another scenario. These guys, for the most part, because there's no better option, are stuck in their paradigm. So you have Clinton, you have Al Gore, you have, I don't remember all of the guys. What's the other guy that got cheated and then didn't say anything about the cheating with the white hair? He was Secretary of State at one point, John Kerry. All of these people have a certain workable point of view. And liberals, lefties, feel like they need to fall in line with this particular point of view. Now, the Sam Seder point of view is you always have to fall in line and vote for these guys. You can bitch in between and everything else, but ultimately, at some point, if you continue to vote and you wish hard enough and you active enough and you push these people enough, that things will somehow change. Now, the point is, over long term, that's not really true. Things don't necessarily change for the better in magical ways just because you vote for the person who you don't want. And beyond that, it is very possible that the things that they say of, like these mythical things that they don't necessarily know for certain. Oh, this would have been better with Hillary Clinton. That would have been better with Hillary Clinton. If you can do that, then I could do that. Hillary Clinton would have started a goddamn nuclear war. Now, it's getting bad already with the way Donald Trump is going. Meaning, you know, the guy who was supposed to be a Russian Putin and conciliatory with Putin and everything else has gotten us further entrenched in Syria. Now, that's what the guy who didn't start off at the position of, I want a missile defense shield, or I want a plane defense shield, no-fly zone in Syria. She would have gotten us closer in this situation, like further along than what we are now in regards to this kind of larger conflict with Russia. I don't agree with these people who believe that it's an easy choice. It's an easy choice. It's like one guy who's at least saying he's not necessarily on board with, you know, all these wars and everything else, and another person who's essentially a hawk, a neocon hawk. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't think it's that easy of a choice. And taking the smug disposition of, you know, I mean, clearly this is the right choice. Clearly this is the right choice. I mean, yeah, they might have cheated Bernie Sanders, but you guys got to get over it and this and that. It's like, no, we don't have to do anything. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I totally agree.
I just want to make one final quick point, and then let somebody else call. The point I wanted to make is Jay Scott mentioned the time that called in to the Sam Seder show, and they kind of went back and forth, and it didn't really go that well. But there was one really interesting exchange where Tim Black asked Sam Seder why he didn't go after people like Rachel Maddow, for example,
right.
Like all the constant Russia bullshit.
He works on MSNBC. He would never. He works on him. He's a contributor on MSNBC. He would never do that. I mean, I'm not trying to impinge on his who he is as a person or anything else. I'm just saying, from a business relationship standpoint, that would look kind of rough. Am I wrong? I mean, am I trying to say he's corrupt? I don't think I'm trying to say he's corrupt. I'm trying to say he has a certain bias. Based on his business model or based on his jobs. I mean, based on his job.
But the reason that Sam Seder gave was kind of interesting. What he said was that even though, he basically alluded, it might be bullshit, but it's kind of effective at, demonizing Trump.
Yes.
And that was not an impressive answer to
No,
me. The
that is
idea
not.
that lies and propaganda are acceptable if they serve your political interests, that
Yeah.
wasn't particularly
That is beyond,
impressive to me. I mean, for a guy who claims to be the moral paragon, that wasn't a very good answer.
Yeah, that lacks a bit of integrity. Like, built into that answer is a lack of integrity.
Anyway, I'll go. You can talk to somebody else.
Oh, very cool.
Keep it moving.
Thank you, man.
Nice
I
talking to
appreciate
you.
it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I agree with you. That's not the best of answers. I have accepted that the Russia thing was purely there to obfuscate from the issues associated with the Democratic Party. Like, we can use this to attack you while protecting our flank. We don't have to expose ourselves in a particular way. So I could say Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia, and ultimately Donald Trump. It's like, how long have you been beating your wife? What? It's one of those answers, one of those questions. They can attack him on this front. They never have to actually deal with the issues of why they lost. If they can scream and howl at the top of their lungs about Trump and Russia, and the public buys it. The catch is, though, the public doesn't care. Even though the public may agree with them, the public doesn't care. Public doesn't care. But that being said, they can scream and moan about it. They're going to get enough people who may care about it to put them back in office, and they don't have to expose themselves to something that's uncertain. Having this kind of reflection as a party may be somewhat uncertain. And of all honesty, if you have a reflection, you may have to have an actual change in the way that your party goes. So they're against it. Hello, you're on the show. Who am I talking to, and what's the topic?
Hey man, it's Gabriel MacArthur. I just became a patron this morning, actually.
Welcome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And welcome to the Soapbox. So what you want to talk about? What's going on, Gabriel?
Well, I just wanted to ask, I see people all the time, they say, you can't watch mainstream media, you got to ignore it, and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
About the opinion that you should watch those things, and then it's kind of like a know my enemy kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't like this idea of anything being completely off limits. It's you float between perspectives, if that makes sense. Like I think people say mainstream media, and this is one of those things where kind of even the Sam Seder thing, it's like you have to understand the perspective of people who are saying it. They may tell you something that's true. Like the New York Times may cover a story, and that story may be factually true. The question becomes, what's the spin that they're putting on the story? So it's like this detail is true, this detail is true, that detail is true. But I give you a perfect example. My friend told me he watches CNN, MSNBC, and you could tell just based on his conversation. And he would bring up Yemen, but he does not include the United States in that conversation. Because the workable point of view of media is if the United States does something by virtue of it being the United States, it's correct. We may fuck up, we may be incompetent, all that stuff, but ultimately they weren't doing it for bad ends. So when that comes across starving Yemenis, and you're like, holy shit, we're starving Yemenis. Why is the United States helping these guys starve and murder Yemenis? Well, the mainstream media would never involve themselves into that particular bit of conversation of why are we assisting them in starving Yemenis? Why do we have this contract going back to the 40s that these guys working in this kind of oil for protection rig or business that they were going into? They would never touch that. They would never touch it. That being said, it doesn't mean that everything they're saying is wrong. It just means that they have certain hard biases that they're not going to touch.
Well, that's just, I get in trouble sometimes for sharing stuff, that Mike Sinato has written, which, some liberal people don't like what he has to say. But the thing about it is, they say this is owned by Donald Trump Jr. or whatever the case is. And what I try to tell people is, whether it's Breitbart, whether it's CNN, whatever it is, like you said, sometimes they do share the truth when it suits what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. If you want to hit a Democrat, Republicans are going to want to hit Democrats. If it's something that just so happens to be true, then I have no issue using the thing. Like, it's like, what's the club? Oh, what's the club? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I invite people to, have you ever done this where you've got Fox and MSNBC and CNN and you're just kind of flipping between them?
Yes.
Or so.
It depends on it's one of those things that depends on the story. So like Jeremy was saying with the Lee Camp, he was like, I need to look it up to see the sources. That's kind of what I end up doing. So if something comes out from Fox and it's like, I don't like Fox as a source, can I corroborate the source? Like, now that being
You're
said,
able to see the line that they're trying to push people against each other on.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like I need to know the bias before I can use the work, and not just know the bias. Do you remember during the Bush years, the Bush administration, and Rachel Maddow, Keith Olbermann, these guys were like on the front lines of like every night bashing him over and over and over and over again. Now, what they were saying was true, but it was allowed to be true just because how bad the Bush administration was. So it's like you can look at NBC and say, okay, these guys are telling the truth because they could tell the truth. They had a political incentive to tell the truth. Now, same thing in this case, but they don't have a political incentive to tell the truth. It's like the built-in bias for them is to obfuscate. It's to not be honest. It's to try to come up with something for Trump. Whereas if Republicans can find anything that's true on Democrats to hit them on it, they're going to find something that's true to hit them on it, which means some of the sources that you're going to get are going to be Fox, and they'll be backed up by somebody else like the Daily Mail or something like that. I care whether it's true. That's what I care about. I don't the source. There was something on Breitbart that I was like, oh man, I don't want to pull this from Breitbart. It's just but again, it's one of those things sometimes where the article is just yes or no. This either happened or this either didn't happen. In which case, yes, I can use it because this actually happened. It depends on the perspective. The biggest issue, I think, at least for me, was how do you ground yourself? Like how do you where do you put your stake in the ground, and with all the stuff swirling around you, how do you retain your whatever you are? So if you say I'm a humanistic perspective, and you say that my goal in this is to give out what's true. You have people everywhere around you that are trying to spin. There is no such thing as an objective point of view. The people know that my point of view is this humanistic perspective. But within that, what's true? They can find propaganda anywhere else. What's true? And even if it's something that's pro-Trump, even if it's something pro-Democrat, even if I don't care. Is it true? And how does it align with my values? So I think your point is people get into this mindset of you can't watch X or you can't watch Y.
Right.
And I think
you gotta get out of your bubble.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Agreed.
You said that kind of what grounds you, like your show and Jimmy Dore, and for me anyway, and especially your show because you're a lot like me, where you just try to cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
People there's credit where credit is due, and you don't get overly emotional about a lot of these issues. I think, that's my main advice is to let people know you got to be willing to look at everything and know thy enemy. Yeah.
And mind you, your enemy may be right sometimes. We get grounded in a perspective. And of course you're getting grounded in a perspective because you believe it's your perspective. You think it's right. Like the way you weigh the world and everything else.
Yeah. Enemy is a strong word for sure.
Yeah. Enemy is a strong word. I mean, but even if the guy is not your enemy, I mean, it's sometimes what they're saying is right. I think that's one of the difficult things to get across. There are times when somebody says something that I don't particularly like that I still think, fair enough. All right. I don't particularly like that guy. I still think the guy's an asshole, but fair enough. He makes a good point. Yeah, man, know thy enemy is right. And I know what you mean. I know you don't mean it in the standpoint of I'm at this guy's throat with a knife. I know what you mean it from the standpoint of the people who are politically against us or who don't necessarily toe our line. Yeah, I think it's important to understand where they're coming from. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Like in any context, mind you, like the not just political. Like when we went into Vietnam, the Vietnamese thought that the United States was trying to take over where France left off. So in their minds, these guys are colonizers who's coming to take our country from us, and they're going to treat us in the horrible way that France treated us. The Vietnamese also looked at it as if liberal democracies act like France did, meaning if you could take a country in the way that they've taken this country and treated us in the way that they treated us, and they call that a liberal democracy. We want nothing to do with liberal democracies. Now, the United States comes in. Kennedy was trying to pull us out. LBJ wanted us more ensconced than that. The Democrat wanted us more ensconced in Vietnam. And in no way did he take the time to try to understand that this is the perspective that these people are taking. And that this war, where you had like millions of Vietnamese that were killed in this senseless war, that these guys, a conversation, just a meeting of the minds would have kept that thing from taking place. Yeah, you do need to know what the other people are thinking, even if it may be acerbic, even if it may be even like, oh my God, those people are assholes. It helps to know. I don't write off I don't write off most stuff. Like, I don't put most stuff on the blacklist. I try to float between them and see if there's any credibility to it. I agree with you, man. I know where you're coming from.
I try to tell people, go into every interaction believing that you can reach the other person. You might not be able to do that.
Yeah.
But if you try, you can move on to the next person.
Yeah. I guess I feel I look at this stuff as I throw out a fishing line, like this kind of wavelength.
Right.
And there will be people that aggregate around the wavelength, like you're going to build your audience. And there'll be people who don't. There'll be people who are wayward and close and may end up latching onto your wavelength of saying, wait a minute, this guy's right. Like, or like, this guy has a point. I don't agree with everything he's saying, but his point of view of the world is valid. If I can even do that, like if I can even get to the point of tweaking somebody's perspective of things. Because look, I've went through this. I mean, I used to be a full-on Obama supporter. Yes, Obama is awesome. He's, momentum. Obama's going to change it all. He's running on fucking hope and change. And, $1 billion. I like full on in. And I met this guy. I used to work for the guy. And it's one of those things where they eviscerate your point of view. And even though they've just eviscerated your point of view of things, meaning because you said that this is what I think the world is, and they annihilate what you think the world is, you can't even disagree with them. Like, they're like, what they're saying, yeah, what he's saying is probably true. And yet you still leave that conversation saying, momentum, Obama is awesome. He told me, he says, yeah, man, he says, you're a lefty. I mean, and at the time I didn't necessarily think of lefty or right or in my head or class or none of these type of arguments. He says, Obama has been locking people up under these espionage acts. I mean, he's been putting away whistleblowers. You think that's good? Oh, no, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good at all. I mean, these guys waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, what about the housing thing? I mean, he was protecting Wall Street. He threw his body on the line for Wall Street while at the same time letting homeowners go bust. Yeah, I don't like that either. So what is it that you like? Like those type of arguments where you're in this position of, yeah, fuck you, man. Never mind. It's like that's all you have left. I didn't say that. I acknowledge that, yeah, you're right. There's some things that I don't particularly like. And then later on, as you're coming to your political awareness and paying attention, and you're looking at it from a historical context, you hit your head on something. And you're like, okay, my understanding of this was wrong. Now, not everybody does that. Not everybody hits that change in point of view where you're looking at the world in a fundamentally different way. And when you're looking at it in that fundamentally different way, you're like, the world could be different. The world doesn't have to be this way. And feeding into the system the way it is perpetuates the system the way it is. It's there. My feeling is, I guess, I don't think having an argument with a person changes a person's point of view. I don't think you reach people through the mental space in that way. I think you can reach some. I think you reach people when they're ready to be reached. When they're coming to that point of saying, okay, something's not here, it's not right, I don't know what it is, and I'm open and receptive to hearing something different. I think that's where you get people.
Yeah, there's got to be a willingness to agree to disagree. If you don't have that, then you're kind of wasting your time. But anyway.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you calling in. What's your name again? Gabriel? Have a good one. You said Gabriel?
Gabriel MacArthur. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you calling in, and thank you for being a patron. You have no idea how much you guys help.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you. Have a good one. Let's see. Brianna Wilson. I changed my mind. We should be fighting. I'm sick of capitulating to the quote-unquote left. There is no left. Left. I like that, Brianna. There is no left. I like that. Thomas Ball. Even the Bushes supported Hillary Rodham Clinton. Think about that. Hillary Clinton united the faux left or the cedar left, the regular left, meaning Democrats who would be considered quote unquote left, and Republicans. That's awesome. Yeah, I voted Hillary. I'm a coward. Jay Scott. Yeah, you guys are making a point, and I take your point, and I think your point is real. I tend to be somewhat of a bomb thrower, and creating bomb throwing in the way that I bomb throw, it creates divisions that may not necessarily be there if I took a more passive route in going about it. That's fair, and that's true. That's true. I, like everybody else, am a product of my environment. And it just so happens that because this video, or because these videos are just an extension of me, which I've always said that. These videos are just an extension of me. What am I thinking about at the time? What is the thing that's on my mind? What is the thing that I deem important? This is how that gets, I guess, this is how this comes out, I guess. Look, putting emotions to the side for the moment. I am stuck with this thing. I'm being honest, Jay. I don't. I know it doesn't mean anything to say. I don't say that as a hit. I say it because I think it's true, and maybe you don't see a distinction in those things. Yeah, I do think voting for Hillary Clinton was somewhat of a cowardly vote. If you're telling me that you're terrified of Donald Trump, then just by definition, that's a cowardly vote. Now, that could be cowardly in the sense of running away from a bear. So it's cowardly, but it's not necessarily insanely cowardly. If a bear comes I'm running, I'm going to do the best that I can to get the fuck out of Dodge. She's a fucking bear. I understand that that's a bear, and the bear's going to maul me. I've seen bears maul other human beings before. It's like, ate that guy like he was a hamburger. So being a coward in some cases might be the right strategy to do, so don't misunderstand me. And I'm trying to be fair on this point. I know cowardly is strong. But am I wrong? Back to that point. Am I wrong on this? If Hillary Clinton runs again in 2020, I just said if. And if it's Donald Trump, if it's Mike Pence, if it's Ted Cruz, do you vote for Hillary Clinton? Is that not an interesting point? Would that mean that the Democratic Party has learned nothing in the process of everything that took place? And because they were given the ability to scream Trump and Russia the entire time, they didn't have to question themselves. They didn't have to question the party. They had a point of view of the world that was as obsequious to cash as Republicans, with this incremental stuff on the edges to try to make them a little bit more palatable. I mean, come on. Bold like a leopard. I love that. What's the Skype address? Bold like a leopard. It's not really a Skype address. It's a YouTube thing. If you have on my patrons list, on the patrons thing, there is the phone or the call-in phone number. I use it as a gift to patrons. I appreciate them. I don't know what else to give them. Like, I like sharing my videos with everybody, so I don't necessarily like to make my videos selective or hidden. And yeah, I don't know what else to give them. So I'm stuck with that. That being one of the things I give. I don't believe in capitulating to bullies, especially if we don't have to. I don't like Biden either. Lover in Thunder. Lavera in Thunder. Lavera in Thunder. I love that. By the way, Thomas Ball. Ball was my favorite character, or one of my favorite characters on Stargate. I don't know how many people used to watch Stargate. They used to have the Goa'uld. And the Goa'uld, maybe pronounced this poorly. They were considered to be gods. Now, they were considered to be gods in one country after the next, after the next, after the next. I mean, one world after the next. Ultimately, they were just symbiotes. They just had better technology so they can kind of use this. But Ball was an awesome character. It's a fucking awesome character. Like, he was so arrogant. Like, he took arrogance to this next level to where as long as you're not dealing with him, you can appreciate how arrogant it is. It's like arrogance being somewhat of a superpower that you wield with this awesome, this fervor and badassness. It's fucking amazing. Love Stargate, yeah. Warren as well. What do you say about Warren? You mean the corporate donations? Yeah, they've stopped. Kristen Gillibrand, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker have stopped taking corporate PAC money. Stop taking corporate PAC money. So. Do I like Cory Booker and Kristen Gillibrand? No, I do not. No, I do not. Thank you for not doing that. I think that goes a long ways to getting the Democrats into this camp of stop taking campaign finance money. By the way, let's talk about that for a moment. Jay Scott with the no PAC money BS. Oh, you think it's BS? Booker, Fowling, and Warren Harris all show their hands with the no PAC money BS. Oh, I need to check that. Fucking love my audience. I was going to do an article talking about these guys and the PAC money. Apparently, I need to look further into it because Jay Scott is telling me it's bullshit. Here's another logic argument for the moment. You're a Democrat. You're in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party tells you you need to raise a huge amount of money. Now, you're stuck in a sandbox on this. So how do you raise money? Because you need to run campaigns. And the Democratic Party has told you, look, we're going to go for the person who raises the best and the most amount of money. That's our modus operandi, because we don't have a lot of money at this point. Nobody likes us. We've lost millions of people. Yes, we may win some votes back because they're terrified of Trump, but ultimately, people fled our party like it was a burning boat. So we want to go for the people who have the most cash. What if you, as a Democrat, you're running as a Democrat, you believe in the party, but you don't want to take PAC money? That's not what you want to do. Say all of you don't want to take PAC money. Say all of you say, you know what, I'm sick of this, man. We need to do something to get over this hump of taking this corporate money like this. Now, Sam Seder whispers to you, look, you need to take that PAC money, because the only way you're going to get elected is if you take PAC money. And if you don't take that money, you're going to lose to one of your other candidates, or you're going to lose outright because you're not going to be able to make enough money. It's a binary choice. Either you take the money or you don't. You must take that money. Now, the fact of it is, until people get to the point where they say, I'm done taking this en masse, nothing takes place on that front. I'm trying to show that in one situation after the next in your life, just by the workable way that the situation has taken hold, it will hurt to stop. You have a job that you hate. You think that fucking job is horrible. It bugs the shit out of you every day that you walk into that place. It digs into you. You feel like, I'm wasting my time. I'm putting money into the pocket of some plutocrat. I hate what I'm fucking doing. You do that every day. At what point do you change? What point do you have the capacity to change? And there will always be people whispering in your ear saying, look, I know you hated this job. I know you hated the last job. I know you hated working in this particular field totality. But if you don't get another job in the field that you hate, if you don't continue to do the thing that you've done, you're going to miss out. You're not going to be able to make the same amount of money that you've continued to make prior. Now, somebody else, not the reformist, the person who looks in your ear and says, it's time for you to do something different. Now, that guy who says time for you to do something different is looking from the context of, if you hate it, what's the point? If you're not getting anything out of it, what's the point? I understand you're getting this kind of financial kick, but if you're miserable while you're getting it, what's the point? Yes, changing things will hurt. There's no way around it. It's change. There will be difficulties when you're changing that. You're not going to make the same amount of money you're making right away. It will take you a while to get established in the field that you're trying to get established in. But over the long term, you've established yourself in something that you, in many ways, gravitate towards more. And yeah, you're not doing the same thing that you were doing before. Yes, there are disadvantages to not doing the same thing that you were doing before. But the fact that you've changed allows you a greater opportunity of latitude to explore, who you are, but to also not necessarily be in this thing of alienated labor and doing something that you yourself love to do. Still work. You're starting from a lower point on the scale, but your potential for this is far greater in doing something like this than what you were doing before. A potential that outstripes anything that you could have gotten in the last situation that you were in. The argument of the reformer, I understand, I get it. It's a terrifying world out there. If we do this, X, Y, Z would happen. This will be bad ends in the short term. Your scenario, though, doesn't change. It goes in perpetuity in that way. There's never a situation for you to change for the better in a situation or in a system that work towards keeping the system the way it is. Saying no hurts initially. Agreed. No disagreement. No hedge. I accept that taking the position of no hurts in the short term. But it hurts in the short term purely because you're playing a game of chicken with the party to some degree. The party has the capacity to change. The party understands that if it changes, it's better off from the standpoint of the voter base. It chooses not to. It chooses not to because you, as a person, are still complicit in voting for that particular party. The moment that you say no, one of two things happens. It's going to test your will to see if that no is real, meaning, they're going to run it into the ground again. In the same way that they're going with this Trump and Russia nonsense, they're going to try to run it into the ground again, meaning Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Kristen Gillibrand, and some of the random Democrat that they're putting into position. But how many times are they going to do that? How many times are they going to be willing to lose? And if you as a person have these things that you want, if you as a person are clear in the things that you want, and you're standing in a certain degree of solidarity on the standpoint of, this is our bottom line, this is our negotiation, this is what we're willing to negotiate, meaning in regards to where we're willing to fall on this, that gets you change. Not in the short term, no, because they're going to test your resolve, but that gets you change. That's a strategy for actual change. What you're talking about has been proven to not work, at least over the course of 20 years or 30 years. If you continue to do what you've always done, for whatever reason, magically you get something different. So that's the way I explain this point. I don't know another way to put it. Yeah, that's the only way I can put it. All right, we've gone over 2 hours. I have a few more videos that I want to do today while I'm at home. So thank you guys for the call-ins. I appreciate it. I don't necessarily... Oh, wow. Still have many people here. Very nice. Jamal, the candidate and the voter simply have to act with its integrity. Tim Bradley, I agree with you, man, but that's not the way people act. People act in ways based on the system they're in. So it is difficult for a person to say, I prefer the third party. Now, if I'm acting at a level of integrity, I'm not acting out of cowardice or anything else. That third party represents me. Now, the problem with this is this esoteric other, this mythical other. People looking in their head saying, I would vote for that third party candidate if and only if I knew there were enough people to put that person over the line or give that person a chance. So I'm going to not vote for the person who represents my interests and who I think is actually a real person. And I'm going to vote for this other person who I know in no way represents my interests. But they keep the boogeyman from coming through the door, even though they're a boogeyman themselves. This is what takes place. It's a certain degree of blackmail. Your intelligence tells you, just in the short confines of your own things of what may take place in the next 4 years, that this choice is better. You don't look at it from the context of 8 years or 12 years or 16 years or 20 years. You look at it from the very limited context of what's taking place right now in the immediate moment. I'm saying that as a political bloc, we need to look beyond the immediate moment. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not a real expectation to expect a huge number of people to function in that way, unless they have some kind of political bloc backing them up saying no. It's almost like forming a union within, but I guess at that point you have a political party. But you're saying no, I'm done. It's loud and clear. You have the numbers to support it. The party fails or the party dies. Either the crack-addicted heroin addict of a boyfriend that's also an alcoholic dies and croaks on the couch by himself, or he changes. That's my point. We do need courage, man. Be head or give head. Kalita. Brianna Wilson, wish Bernie would run as a third party. I don't know, man. I don't know. Clad Illusion. Jamal, I enjoyed your show on the inner workings of the DNC propping up the corporate Democrats. I would like to see more along the lines of the inner workings of the RNC. Clyde, the only reason I don't do those type of shows is because I feel like MSNBC does those shows. Like, I feel like I feel like there is no path for me to get anything done with the RNC. Zero. None. Like, they are so far off the political spectrum, I can't even see them. Like, that's where they are. Now, Seder is in my sandbox. The Young Turks, those guys are in my sandbox. Now, those guys are propping up the DNC in many respects. So the DNC ends up being the party that espouses a particular vision that is closer to my vision, or at the very least they're on the political spectrum. If they were in the UK, they would be the Conservative Party. So I can see them. Now, in this country, those are the people who speak to these ideals, these FDR types who say these things but don't necessarily mean these things. You end up with Ronald Reagan, regardless of the way they say things. And they use purely this contextual point of being opposition to Republicans to define their existence. Now, if you're looking and asking me, what do I think the problem? I think that's the problem. I think that's your problem. That's the place where you need to work on. You're not going to get anything from Republicans. Republicans are wholesale and bought by their corporate interests. Period. When they're talking about freedom, they are not talking about you. They're talking about freedom for other people, for a certain demographic. There's nothing that will come out of their mouths. I thought it was insane for people to believe that Trump was going to make any real promises on this idea of raising the minimum wage, of health care and all this other stuff. That stuff was crazy talk. There was no way. He had no apparatus for that. The Republican Party don't believe in those things. They would rather you die on the street if you gave them an opportunity to vote on a bill that would allow you to die on the street than to actually give anybody health care. They don't care. They're in it for a small, hyper rapacious 1%. They don't care. It doesn't matter for me what the RNC does because they don't care. They're off the political spectrum. They're not going to do anything in your best interest. It doesn't work that way. They're fucking off the political spectrum. The argument and the war that's waged is done on the Democratic side. The elections are Democrats. They either lose or win. It has nothing to do with Republicans. Your monsters here are the Democrats. They're the gatekeepers. They are the people who are essentially stopping you from any level of change. You need to break that before anything changes. Republicans are insane because they're allowed to be insane. The party that functions against them is just so weak and so out of touch that people don't necessarily put those guys in office. That's your issue. I see no value, or at the very least, I don't even see any interest in doing that for Republicans because these guys are so batshit crazy. It's like, do I really want to spend a day analyzing the inner workings of Ted Cruz? Fuck no, I can't stand to look at Ted Cruz. I know whatever's going to come out of his mouth is going to be something to fuck somebody over. I see no value in it. The value that I see in this stuff is trying to pull wayward Democrats that may have this thing of, I think that guy's right. Those people I can reach, those people I can touch. I'm trying to pull people into the solidarity of no, I'm done. And to have that solidarity of no, I'm done be loud and clear and over the top in a way that they know they lose. They know they go into a contest and they lose when they don't represent a particular interest. Explain something to me. All of the people who bitch and moan and complain that they want Democrats to be different, that they want to push for these guys to change, that you got activism. Activism to what end? To what end? If at the end of your activism, if the end of your bitching and moaning, raising signs in front of Verizon, if the end of all that, you still end up with why it's brave and courageous and radical to vote for Hillary Clinton, then what's the point of the activism? If at the end of the day, your vote is always perfunctory, it's always built into the system because you're so terrified, then what's the point? What's the point of the activism? The activism is just you screaming to somebody who has a 10 ear. Unless you're willing to do something about it, they don't care. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. You're being used. You're being had. Your strategy doesn't work. So come on. Democrats exploit Bernie's fear constantly. They know his fear and will do everything they can to use it to their advantage. That's for everybody. Blacks voting at 90% is not because they love Democrats. It's because they're terrified of Republicans. Hispanics voting at the level that they do is because they're scared of Republicans. Workers, labor, voting at the way that they do is because they're scared of Republicans. At some point along the way, you've changed this from we're working with Democrats to please keep the boogeyman away. Please keep the boogeyman away. Do you understand the problem with that relationship? You're not co-partners. You're not equal partners in this. You are terrified of somebody else, in which case the partner that you're with is the guy that keeps the monsters at bay. So you let him get away with not washing his hands, putting his foot on the couch, slapping your kid, slapping the dog, kicking and punching you, because at the end of the day, he keeps the monsters away. Understand the relationship to which you find yourself. At some point, you grow a spine and you say no. The answer is third party Jamal Brandon Wilson. Yes, it is. But the problem is you have conformists, people who believe that they can change what the party is. And the argument that I make is you change the party by leaving that party. Your best chance of getting that party to change is to remove the legitimacy from the party itself. Now, you can wait to an election cycle to do that. Or you could do that early on saying, we're not on board with this. We're done. Those guys over there at the dim exit standing with their hand in their, with their thumb in their ass. We're with those guys. We're with those guys now. You try to win an election without us. And you see how that comes about. That's where the position needs to be. That needs to be loud and clear. I would love for that to be the position of Turks. I would love for that to be the position of all lefty channels. I would love for the left to be in solidarity on that particular point. Love for it to take place. Not so much. That's not where we are. We're still sparring and fighting over whether or not people should support the Democratic Party. I mean, come on, it's fucking insane. It's fucking insane. These guys have failed at every fucking moment. Like the position, the argument that's done for this has failed. Out and out, failed. And I can't say I know, I'm sorry. But I am willing to strongly bet that if Hillary Clinton won that election, and she put troops in Syria, meaning to create that dumbass no-fly zone, she gets us closer into this war with Russia. Let's say, for whatever reason, she comes up with some reason to privatize Social Security, she passes the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I would wager you anything that if Trump runs again in 2020, if Ted Cruz runs again in 2020, if Mike Pence runs again in 2020, and these are not people where it's so far out that they would take office, or that they would be able to pull enough people to get them to win that election. If anybody in the Republican camp ran in 2020, Hillary Clinton was barely beating people in the polls. Monsters. Fucking Ted Cruz barely beating them in the polls. Understand what I'm saying? The gravity of what I'm saying. Ted Cruz is a maniac. Mike Pence is a maniac. These people are maniacs. Donald Trump is a maniac. These people are running against her in 2020. After she's doing all of this stuff, what do you think the argument of is going to be of the reformer? Yeah, man, I mean, we could try third party next time, but I mean, for this time, I mean, of course you have to vote for Hillary Clinton. I mean, I understand that she did all these things. I mean, but, you know, yeah, she killed all these civilians, and yeah, I mean, she did put that missile defense shield in Syria, and yeah, she did bring us close to the brink of war, and yeah, she did pass that tax cut that was kind of gross, and yeah, at which point does that, yeah, she did XYZ turn into, okay, I'm done? At which point? At which point? It would be the same argument again in 2020 as they were making in 2016. In the same way, it would be the same argument in 2024, and 2028, and 2032. Their argument, there's no way out of that hall of mirrors. That's my point. That's my point. They're waiting for some kind of messiah to save them, some political messiah. I don't know where that is. I don't know where that is. There is more than just the presidency. The Republicans hold Congress as well. You can't justify eliminating them from the equation. Valera, 1980, don't misunderstand me. Don't misunderstand me. It's not that I eliminate them from the equation. I make the point that it's for Democrats to lose, not for Republicans to win. That's the point I'm getting at. If that election wasn't because Donald Trump was this brilliant politician, Donald Trump didn't even think he was going to win that election. It's Democrats to lose, not Republicans to win. In one place after the next, the failure is theirs. Do you understand? Bernie Sanders went into West Virginia and blew the doors off. Blew the doors off. Joe Manchin is full well thinking that he may lose West Virginia. Terrified that he may lose West Virginia. What's the difference in those two equations? There is one way to run that you know the American public and your own party and base. Sam Seder and I would be on the same team if Democrats said, you know what, you guys are right. We're going to run in a more populist way. And we're going to run based on what the public wants. Meaning when we ask the public in a particular area, what do you want? We're just going to ask them, what do you want? And we're going to support those things. They will be further to the left overnight. Sam Seder and I will be on the same fighting line, screaming at the top of our lungs about the same things that these guys are doing. It's not that I want to bash Democrats. It's not that I want to bash anybody for that matter. That's not it. Don't misunderstand me. It's they choose to represent certain interests because they're paid to represent certain interests. That's why I'm screaming about this. That's why I think this is a big deal. I am not eliminating Republicans from the equation. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm saying that Republicans win at the failings of Democrats. That's what I'm saying. More often than not. Do you understand that Congress at one point was seen to be just a Democratic place? That they owned it. That they owned it. They started losing it when they started to take on certain policies that pushed them further to the right. This world was different. This country was different. It was the changes that these guys have made. One of those changes, and one of the things, or the main thing that they've done, is become obsequious to cash. Now, Sam Seders of the world, and I don't mean to keep Sam Seders, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that again. But there's a point of view of the world that wants to reward that behavior. Meaning, if the point of view of the world says you have to vote for Hillary Clinton, then that means you have to vote for the things that she's going to do and espouse when she gets into that office. You have to vote for the means that she used to get elected. You're saying yes to all of those things. What if I don't like campaign donations? What if I don't like my people being bribed? Yes, I understand both people are being bribed in the system, but what if I don't like people being bribed at all? Are you saying that no is not an option? What happens when there's enough no's when one of the parties can no longer win? Does that party implode, or does that party change? Does that party get to the point of saying, you know what, we can't win in the way that we've been winning. The people aren't buying the shit that we're selling anymore. They're not buying it. The party has one or two options. Once the party has established that they are not buying it, they have a fundamental line that they're not willing to go beyond. And we can't win without those people buying into this. We can't convince them. We can't play the lesser of the evil argument. We can't play any of the stuff. It's not working. It's not playing. Logically, the party either dies or the party changes. Changes to move to the level that the public is willing to support. Now, the point that I'm making is, I want a party that is against campaign finance donations. I want a party that is an anti-war party. I want a party. There's certain things that I want. Why am I going to support what I don't want? And I know the argument is Trump is a maniac, but the fact is you're going to get one maniac after the next, after the next. Republicans are getting more batshit crazy, not less. But they're getting that way because, again, this argument can always be played. This guy is less or worse, moving us further to the right, meaning Republicans can move further to the right. There is no way to change the system by being complicit in the system itself. And part of the incentive structure of keeping the system the way it is to have the boogeyman at the door of a maniac taking over. Well, we have the maniac taking over. We have the worst case scenario. Republicans have everything. So what do you want to do? Democrats have lost a certain amount of legitimacy in this process, seeing as they've lost everything. So what do you want to do? Are you still going back and suckle at the tit of the Democratic Party? Or are you going to raid the vault, take your balls from out of the jar, attach them back on, and say it's time for something different? And we're saying no, unless you toe this line of being something different. I understand the risk. Believe me, I understand the risk. I don't say it lightly. I say it from the standpoint of if you want anything to actually change. I mean, come on. You've done the exact same thing that you've done for God knows how long, and you're screaming that this is some kind of radical approach, doing what you've always done. I mean, it's Orwellian. Absolutely Orwellian. Who is this? Tim Bradley. Thanks, Tim. Thank you, man. Leave a comment, guys. If you're going to do that, leave a comment. I've seen Green Party candidates and they are not impressive. Jay Scott. Agreed. Look, I try to, whatever hit that may be used against me on this stuff. And I know I can be slightly brutal when I'm having to go at somebody. And mind, it depends on the go that I'm having or the reason or the bone that I'm picking. I don't like them talking about Jimmy Dore. For whatever reason, I have a fondness for Jimmy Dore. So I feel slightly protective of people I have fondness for. Is what it is. Call it a failing, call it whatever you want. And yes, I do joke pretty hard, saying that the guy is the other woman or the work wife and all this other stuff. I am trying to make the point that it is not the most courageous thing in the world to have your candidate cheated, and you minimize the cheating in order to assuage your point of view, to make that point of view work, because otherwise it's icky and somewhat emasculating to realize that this guy cheated me in a representative government and I've still voted for the person. I'm trying to make the point that there is a certain degree of cowardice, however you want to coax it, meaning however you want to call that. What it boils down to is I am terrified of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to bring the world to an end. It may be justifiable. If there's a bear, I'm running. Call me a coward. I don't care what you call me. If there's a bear, I'm running. But let's at least be honest on that front. if you tell me, Jay, that look, there's nothing else. Okay, fair enough. Like there's nothing else that is organized itself that would propose or present a vehicle, then I would say you're right. I'll say you're right. Look, I try to be honest. Even whether I agree or disagree, I try to be honest. The Democrats know what they're doing, divide and conquer, exploit the third world, protect the Hamptons. Protect the Hamptons, I like that. Cal Knox, everyone knows this propaganda is, and almost no one thinks they've been the victim of it, which is why it works. Cal Knox, it is weird, right? I mean, it's this weird, watching mainstream news is weird to me. It's always infuriating to me. Because the point of view that they take and the stuff that they exclude and the stuff that they don't bring up, it's always bizarre to me. It's like, how do you allow your country to do this and you're not screaming about this? Or how do you allow this to take place? The gun shooting, for example. These things are normal at this point. That's only here. These things are normal. The question is never asked, meaning the society itself is never put on the block to be examined to say, why does this happen? Why? It's not enough to say that guy was a bad egg. Well, no, you can't say it was a bad egg because this happens too often. We're not individuals. We're not free will. There are things, the things that we're exposed to, the things that dig in us, the society itself, the social pressures that are applied upon us, those things dig into human beings. It makes life difficult. And people deal with those things in different ways. If you have a pressure cooker, no, you can't necessarily look at any one particular person. But if you're looking at the course of 300 million people, how many people are going to crack under the way that we've organized ourselves and the arrangements that we've taken and the things that we do in our society that we consider to be perfectly okay? How? Like we exclude social responsibility from every case that takes place as if that person was purely an individual acting on his own individual ends. Yes, he may have been an individual and chosen by the gun, but what was in him? What dug into him? What implicit or explicit gave him this idea that this was a good way to exert a certain amount of whatever he needed to exert? It's not random. It's happening here for a reason. We've organized ourselves in a way, and we never like to interrogate how we are. It doesn't matter what it is, be it a human being, be it large organizations, be it a Democratic Party. We never like to interrogate those things. And because we don't like to interrogate those things, it's a bad egg, it's a bad apple, it's a once out, it's a random occurrence. He had mental issues. People like Donald Trump, the people in his school didn't say anything about it, blaming the people in their school. Fucking idiot. Like you don't want to do anything about this situation because your mind can't even conceive of why this situation exists or how this would take place. You wash a country in guns. There are more guns than almost human beings. You make it easier to get a gun than it is to vote. You're the Republican Party. This happens, and it's like, hey, don't politicize it. No, it is a political issue. It is a societal political issue. My neighbor could be a fucking maniac, and that guy can get a gun because of the lax legislation that you've allowed to take place in regards to dealing with these weapons. And let's be honest, it's not the weapon. It's not the weapon. Lefties always make this fucking argument. Republicans are always, we don't want to do anything about this because this limits the freedom of the top 1%, and we are so obsequious to the 1%. We are on our knees with I'm trying to get that money. I'm trying to get that money of the 1%. So it doesn't exist. We don't want to bring it up. It's not an issue. It doesn't exist. There's no problem. These guys are just mental cases. Who has the philosophical responsibility of doing something about this when the right-wingers just want to protect their cash? Who has the philosophical responsibility of dealing with this issue? And what do they say in their dealing with this issue? We need more gun legislation dealing with guns. It's not about guns. It's not about guns. Like, we're talking about human beings. The issue is human beings. Put the society in examination. And you ask, what are the levers and the pressures? This is not a political answer, by the way. This is a technical answer. And this is somewhat of a problem. These guys sit on their ass and just, bloviate. I think it's this. I think it's that. This is a technical question. Examine. What is the problems that the people that they have in common? What are the pressures that these people are dealing with that allows them to pop in the way that they popped? Is it something that affects a large number of people, meaning people are in pain silently in large numbers based upon the way that the system is arranged? And it's just so happened that a certain number of these people crack and pop, and the way that they pop is they have a weapon and they blow some people's head off. The issue is not the individual. The issue is not the fact that you have guns. The issue is the society itself and the way the society is arranged and the way and the drivers. Look, I like my John Wick. Love my John Wick. When John Wick goes and he murders a bunch of people and he does it in the most elegant way, it's elegant violence. Does the fact that I was raised on movies with people shooting people in the face, does the fact that even superhero movies deal with their issues by beating up and killing a lot of bad guys in the pursuit of some goal, does all of these things that are in our society, these vagaries of our society, the gun is awesome, America going around the world murdering people for whatever ends that America chooses to murder people, is it possible, to any degree that's possible, that these things sink into the minds of the people who are in the society itself? Meaning, many of the people out of 300 million, a lot of them will rebuff this, saying that there's a line that I draw. I don't necessarily want to kill anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. But yes, I harbor these feelings that I dislike people routinely, particularly when those people are in my way. And some people further still, meaning under the pressures, a little bit more pressure, a little bit more pressure. How many of those people crack? It's not an individual issue. That's my point. And the party that has philosophical responsibility of solving it has no tools to which to solve it. They don't even try to have the tools to solve it. They go with the easy non-answer of, we need more gun checks. We need more gun checks. These guys are maniacs. We need more gun checks. Without an actual examination of the system itself. Because the actual examination of the system itself presents problems for the people who are given large amounts of cash for people who profit from the system itself. Neither party would ever have a solution to this. Not the way that the parties are arranged. They will bloviate. They will say all the things that they want to say. But neither party has an actual solution to this. You can say the incremental change of checks, what are those things called? Of making sure that the person who's getting the gun doesn't necessarily have a criminal record or didn't necessarily beat his wife. You can do that. Wasn't necessarily a maniac or insane. Those things are good. But those things are good. But those things are not the end all and be all of the reason. It doesn't even touch the reason that these things happen. I mean, at the end of the day, we just need to create a bar at the door for some of the people who want to get these things and do harm. Yeah, it's good to create a bar at the door as incremental. But that's pretending as if that people who have guns legally don't flip the fuck out. And come on, that's not true. It's not true at all. Green candidates running for Congress in 2018, but they will show up 2 weeks before the election. I have no idea what that means. Adam Nation, change or die. Yes, agreed. That's what I mean. Dude, I literally look up Greens running in 2018 across the map, check out their findings, look at their sites, watch interviews. Jay Scott's taking shots at Greens. He's not completely wrong. He's not completely wrong. Like, I voted for Jill Stein. The Greens have to answer something. They have to answer something. Why was the DSA so successful, but the Greens had a harder time? And if somebody wants to call in to explain that, I'm all ears. I'm all ears. I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who wants a third party, who violently wants a third party, who wants a third party in the same way that I want my next breath. So this isn't a knock. This is a why. Like I've joked that halfway joking that the problem with the Greens is that they're named the Greens, because what they advocate for policy-wise is fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. Thank you, Jamal, for shredding Cedar. His door vids have more dislikes than likes. I noticed that, by the way. I looked, I said, good. His own audience is against this. Fucking good. It's like absolutely good. Jay, I liked your last call. Yeah. Same here. They're fucking cheaters. Yes, they are fucking cheaters. At a glance, I saw a tattoo, not targeted. I saw tattooed, not targeted. What do you mean? Yeah, I do have tattoos. I have a Virgo tattoo. I'm a double Virgo. Ascendant, Virgo sun. And I have another Aries moon. It's a hard dog to keep on the porch. Virgo with an Aries moon. Where did I come from? I've been voting for over 30 years. You people act like children just because you've chosen candidate didn't win. Joe Terrizzo. You're kind of making our point. Your argument is the adults in the room sell out and vote for a person who they don't believe in. Where has that gotten you, Joe? Where has that gotten you? That's our point. It's not the childish thing to say that this doesn't work. It's the adult thing to do. It's what adults do when they appraise the situation and say the way that the situation is going hasn't improved. It's gotten worse, and there is no capacity for it to get for it to get better doing the same things that we've been doing. That's what a pragmatic person does. Can I give Joe my patron call-in number access? That wouldn't be fair, Jay. That wouldn't be fair. It completely blows away the idea of my thing. I don't know what else to give you guys. What else would you guys want for the patron thing? What else would you guys want? 53-year-old kid here. Vote is done. Joe, you're not getting it. We spent money and time on a candidate who never stood a chance because the DNC had already rigged it. Yeah. Like, look, I don't like it. First of all, don't take the perspective that you're the adult. Just a heads up. That's not going to rub anybody all that well. You're essentially saying people are children. You can go fuck yourself on that. The second point is, it's not about, pining for a candidate that lost. You cheated. Which part of that don't you understand? You cheated. Is this a representative government or not? Is it a representative government or not? Now, if you tell me that it's not, and that the DNC, for the most part, can all intents and purposes choose the candidate that they want, fair enough. I understand the space to which I'm operating. But if you have one grinning idiot after the next, looking to the camera, saying, it is fair, it is impartial, we're in no way putting our thumb on the scale, well, you just lied to me. You've taken my money in pursuit of lying to me. So, yeah. Guard Gnome, dude, you don't need to give us anything for a patron reward. At some point, I'll be able to call in. No, I do feel like I want to give something. Like, I think Dora gives like a ton of different material and everything else. I want to keep my videos open. It's like the socialist republic where you have some people helping other people by doing the videos. I want to keep my videos open. So it's like, okay, if everybody sees the videos, fair enough. Then at the very least feel like the patron thing would allow some difference in regards to call-in. I'm trying to give something. The t-shirt thing is also something. We have a caller. Hello, who are you and what's the topic? Hello?
Leon Lovelace.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yes, my name is Leon Lovelace. I've been a patron of you for just, I don't know, a month or two, but...
What's going on,
I
Leon?
wanted to talk to you. The topic is how you talked about how the Green Party didn't get as many new sign-ups or new members as the Democratic Socialists of America.
I don't think I said as many. I think I said their success. Like their success seemed a little bit more dramatic than the Green Party. But go ahead, pick your bone. What do you guys say? Is that wrong? Is that right? Somewhere in between.
Oh no, you're right. That I'm also trying to sign in. I'm about to join the party officially.
Yeah.
I think what it is that over 4 8 years plus, It's just that both parties, the Democratic Party and Republican Party, said no, they're not viable. They're a third party.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then also with the Bernie movement, people kind of wanted something new.
Yeah.
Because I also want to point out that more people didn't leave the Republican Party and then say, I want to join the Libertarian Party or start another, conservative party.
Mm-hmm.
Just that a lot of people said, I want something new. So credit Socialists of America, because I haven't really heard of them. Not that I really looked it up. I should have looked them up more.
Mm-hmm. But that being but to be fair though,
yes.
I mean you broke the paradigm. Like I don't you got to give people credit for this. This is not the easiest thing to do. If you are born and raised in America, from the time you're a kid to the time you get older, to the time you get your job, to the time you get your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you're stuck in a certain paradigm, and you're beat over the head with this thing of you have two parties. You have this person and that person, red and blue, and that's the way it is. And you have these green parties, but the green parties will look like oddballs. They're like, oh, those guys are weird. Those, why are these guys out there dicking around the edges? There's no chance for these people to win. What's the point of voting for these people? They don't even get on the debate stage. So you as a person is being, pushed into with these implicit and explicit signals that the society itself has aggregated around candidates and parties, whereas people who may actually represent your interests are on the outskirts. Now, when you go in to vote for somebody, it takes something to get over the top to say, I'm not going to go for one of these two main parties. I'm going to vote for this other guy. For whatever reason, I'm going to vote for somebody else who's not within the confines of the society itself, or not within the confines that the society tells me is what I should or supposed to do, or at the very least, it's normal. Like my mom would say, I don't even know who Jill Stein is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know who Jill Stein is, because it's not something that was necessarily talked about. And if you're working 40, 50 hours a week and you're attending to your family and all this other stuff, are you going to be aware enough to know who those people are in those other parties? Probably not. So I give you credit for jumping at least out of the sandbox, or at least out of the box that society itself drives people into. You and anybody else is to be congratulated for that. That is not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I also need to work on jumping out of that paradigm for the down ballot candidate.
Yeah.
Because also was a little afraid to vote for an independent candidate that was running down ballot, because here in North Carolina, a lot of people are conservative, so I wasn't sure if that was progressive guy or not. But I really should have jumped and said, you know what, I'll go for that guy, because even a lot of the down ballot Democrats still aren't going to be really progressive. So
it's funny. We have the race here in Virginia, and the race in Virginia was a big deal. Like it was the governor that was up for Virginia for election, and they wasn't sure if the Democrat was going to be able to take it. One of the things that was going on in the down ballot races. Now, the Democrat who was running for us in Virginia was talking about fiscal responsibility. So that's where that guy was. Fiscal responsibility. Yeah. Now, he could say fiscal responsibility, and he could talk about that stuff.
That's a Republican, right?
He used to be, yeah. He used to be a Republican. He used to be a Republican.
Oh, he's a Democrat saying that.
He's a Democrat, but he used to be a Republican. And for all intents and purposes, he still is a Republican. He's just in the Democratic Party. But the guy he was running against was flaming racist, or it got to the point where he started bringing on this stuff like Donald Trump was talking, and all this other stuff about immigrants and fighting gangs. There's no goddamn gangs in Virginia. Like, he started coming up with all this right wing talk. Now the catch is when you go to Northern Virginia, it is mostly like you have this tech market in Northern Virginia. So you have people from all over the world, like all of these different cultures in this melting pot: black, white, Hispanic. You have Indian. You have Pakistani, Muslim. All of these people in this one sandbox. So the moment that this guy is making that conversation, talking about throwing people out the country and all that, those people get freaked out. And one of the other guys, the guys we had beforehand, it was talking about vaginal ultrasounds for women who wanted to be pregnant. Like, so these are the guys that Republicans are running. Like, if a woman, I believe in small government, but if a woman needs to have an abortion, I require the government to force that doctor to put a ultrasound in her vagina, to put a rod in her vagina, because she needs to be punished for having that abortion. As this is a state, we need to punish her. Like the small government guys who are pushing this stuff. These are the guys who are running in the Republican Party. Now, if you're somebody who's not political, just sane, you're stuck. Like you're literally in this situation of this guy's fucking talking about fiscal responsibility and was a Republican, and this other guy's off the political map. What am I to do? Now the beauty of this is there are certain people who did win, like some Democratic Socialists of America people and those type of things, because what the Democrats, they don't miss it on purpose, but when there was a lefty on the ballot, those people voted for that lefty. They wanted something different, and this was an opportunity to get something different with some of these guys who they were running against. I did not vote for that guy. I accepted that I may be going through a hard time in Virginia, but the Democrat won. And after the Democrat won, he gets in office and he says, yeah, I don't know about this Medicare expansion stuff. I understand that it was a Democrat that put through Obamacare, but as governor, I don't know about this Medicare expansion. Now, they pushed this guy, Democrats, full on pushed this guy, and this guy gets in office and does not even push the signature achievement of the last Democratic president.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm glad the Democratic Socialists of America won. I wish some Greens would have won, but you did have some lefties that were able to kind of break through this time. No, man, thank you for your call, man. I agree with you that I think third parties are important and they need to be supported. It's just not easy to get everybody over to the bandwagon. Oh, by the way, look up Nick Brana. So look up what Nick Brana is doing. Nick Brana is doing the People's Party thing. He's trying to get it all over, and he's trying to get to the point of having a conference where all of these different groups can go in and hash out what they're going to have as an agenda, and trying to get all these people to kind of fall under one banner for this agenda. So check them out.
I have my own new show. It's called Unstoppable Force, and I did a video on some of the progressives that won during, I think, or sometime last year. Yeah. And I did see about Justin Fairfax from Virginia.
Yeah.
He did win for lieutenant governor.
Yep.
He was like a milquetoast Democrat too, because I watched a couple of clips of him campaigning on one of those shows.
Yeah.
And he talked about like mainstream BS, and at one point he blamed the voters for not coming out and voting for Democrats. And if they want something to change, they need to come out and vote. So
like those stupid voters, bastards.
Yeah.
They didn't have the courage to vote for me. Stupid idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, it was because I remember Obama said that, I think sometime right after the election, that he was blaming the voters for why Hillary lost or something like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, those two.
That is so bizarre. It's like your job as a politician is philosophically, is to represent voter interests. Meaning, you're the avatar of their will. You're going out and you're doing things because the public wants to do those things. Like you want to get those things accomplished. That's philosophically. That's not how it works in real life, but philosophically, that's where it stands. And then you have a situation where that guy goes out and instead of getting votes by saying, this is what I'm going to push as my agenda, and this agenda melds with your agenda. Like you're getting those votes because what you're saying is vibing with the majority of the people in that country. That's what's taking place. That's supposed to be the political process that's taking place. But for whatever reason, Democrats have gotten to the point of saying, yeah, we're not going to come out for votes. This is what we're going to do when we get in office. Fuck you, just vote for us. And you're immoral children if you don't just vote for us. And it's like, yeah, but you're not representing our interests. Well, I don't really care about your interests. This other guy's a maniac. So I'm going to do what I want to do. Vote for us. And you had enough people saying no. You had enough people saying no. Yeah, man. Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. And I'm going to check out this. I'm going to check out your website, Unstoppable Force. This is Unstoppable Force, guys.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and I've been on BitChute too. It's not a website; it's just my channel.
Oh, your channel. I'm sorry, Unstoppable Force, the channel on YouTube and BitChute. How did you like BitChute? Do you like that as a platform?
I do like it, but it did seem like they're kind of
clunky,
screwing around with some of the algorithms.
Yeah.
at first I was getting around like in the 20s, and then I like made a video, or maybe it was a couple, and then all of a sudden it just like my viewers nerfed.
Oh, really? Bottomed out.
Yeah, I mean, my channel's tiny, so I'm only getting like single digits on YouTube and like.
Well, you just started
on there, but
I remember
started last year in October of 2016. So.
Oh, 2016. Okay.
Yeah. Well, October 16. Yeah.
It's
just during the election.
It is always difficult when it's that part is difficult. Like hands down, that part is difficult. Like I felt. I remember when I first started doing the videos, I thought my wife thought, okay, this is interesting, and instead of him studying aliens, which is freaking me out, or instead of him, falling into history and politics and boring the shit out of me, a YouTube channel may not be bad. He's investing himself into something that he likes to do, and this may not be bad. But I think she thought of it as just this kind of quirk of something that may not necessarily last. And then you do a video, and then you say, okay, how can I make this a little bit better? How can I make this a little bit better? How can I make this a little bit better? And you start investing more and more and more and more time. And yet you only have like 3 people looking at you and 5 subscribers. And you're like, I always make this term of screaming in the wilderness. It's like you're like this fury and anger and rage about the things that are going on, and there's nobody there listening. It's just you in a box, like flipping out, losing your shit. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part, man. Trying to. It's what's his name? Called it building your audience, or you build your audience with each thing that you do. So keep it up, man. I mean, if you love it, keep it up. If you get sick of it, drop it.
Yeah.
There's no need there's nothing integral to doing it. Meaning it's not necessarily that you have to do it. It's not that you don't have to do it. It's purely up to whether you like it or not. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like doing it. So I'm like, at first it really shocked me, but now it's just hopefully a few people will watch it, because if it's like 1 or 2, then it really seems like maybe something special, especially on YouTube, because they're really nerfing our independent media.
They are messing around with the algorithms. Yeah,
definitely. But there's other sites. It's like, what the hell is going on? Because they're changing their name to Speak Out. So
really, they've changed their name. Oh,
yeah,
they just came out.
Yeah,
I just started learning the bitch.
I don't know when they came out. They might be like 2 or 3 years old. I don't know for sure.
That's fair. I'm just laughing at the. Yeah. I've just heard of BitChute like maybe a couple of months ago, and all of a sudden they're changing their name. So. All right, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate your comments.
All right.
And thank you for being a patron, man. I do appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. This has been going on. Oh, I didn't know you were still on. All right, guys. This has been going on for 3 hours. If there's one more call, I'll take it. But otherwise, I am probably going to call this a day. This has been an epic. This has been an epic chat, or this has been an epic video and chat. I appreciate you guys for coming on. I'm still going to have my show at 5 o'clock this evening, so there's still going to be that. I did not have any anticipation of being on for this long, so there's that. But people were calling in, and there seemed to be a lot of people interested in the topic, and the topic kind of started going all over the place. But I think I made my point in the beginning. Yeah, I guess I do hit hard sometimes, and it makes it difficult to roll back when you actually want to talk to those people, particularly when you don't have anything wrong or really real bones to pick with the I guess what the person wants, more so how that person is trying to get it. That's fair. Saying that they were suckling on the tits of each other is funny, but slightly harsh. If they weren't fucking around with Jimmy Dore, I probably wouldn't do it. Actually, that's not true. Fucking around with Jimmy Dore maybe makes my attention more acute to it. I probably wouldn't pay attention to the show otherwise in that way. But I don't like that. I don't like it. I think it puts more sharpness to the things that I say when I think they're being somewhat unfair and going after the guy. But that being said, I think I've made my point. At least my position on this. Doing what you've always done is not going to get you a magical solution. So, all right, guys, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. And guys, thank you for the super cash. Thank you for the commentary. and thank you for calling in. And at this point, any of my videos that, yeah, I can say that. At the end of my spiel, when I say, I'm accepting calls from patrons, you guys are welcome to call in. I'll still be taking chat requests, so that's still there, but feel free. And like I said, I do this not because I want to create this division. I do this because I want to show extra appreciation to the patrons. Oh, there's one more. Here we are. Hello, who are you, and what's the topic?
Hey man, this is Garden Gnome. What's up?
What's happening, Garden Gnome? You're going to be my last caller for the day. So what's the topic? You having to go with me, or you're agreeing with me, or somewhere in between?
Well, I'm just testing this out. I just wanted to make a quick point.
Go for it.
I was watching Star Trek: The Next Generation last night, and guess what? I watched Worf get his ass kicked by a humanoid.
You watched who get his ass kicked?
It was Worf. Remember how we were like, there's no normal humanoid that's ever beaten Worf?
Who was a humanoid? Who was it? I'm gonna follow Donna Brazil. What was the name of the humanoid that beat up Worf?
It was Dalen.
It was who?
It was Dalen, that escaped convict.
He was. Come on, that guy was amped up on some kind of alien drug or thing that made him like a super soldier.
Yeah, but he was, I don't know, maybe it's pushing the line, but he was...
Okay, that's a gray line. I'll give you that. That's a gray line. That's one of those, yeah, he was still a humanoid. He wasn't, some kind of technological species. He was... Okay, grudgingly, I can see where you would get that one from. All right, let me modify my statement. It is very few and far between that Worf get his ass kicked. Worf is usually a beast on that show. Is that better?
Well,
Is that better?
I agree with you. Like I was in your position. I couldn't think of anyone who would either.
That guy was a badass though, man. That guy was a badass. He had been amped up with the ability to not be seen on scanners, to be in this kind of uber war thing. His intelligence, his IQ, all those things were maxed out in wartime settings. That guy was fucking amazing. Yeah, it was fucking amazing.
He could resist transporters, dude.
Yeah. Did you see that? He should not have that ability. They pushing the line on that one. There is no way he should have that ability. You're talking about a technological thing that's grabbing a person, destroying their molecules, and sending them to another location. What technology did they put in him that allowed him to resist being obliterated, of having his matter obliterated and sent somewhere else? But that being said, you're right.
Setting aside that was a shittily written episode.
They were trying to make a social point.
All of a sudden, something blows up, after he resists a transporter, I get thrown against the wall, and all of a sudden, Andy has a fucking phaser.
Right.
In that episode, man, it was poorly written.
Yeah, they weren't always winners.
So,
I mean, they were that episode was trying to make the social point of, look, once you make these people into soldiers, into warriors, now what? And they were trying to make this allegory towards the United States will put all of this money investing into training the soldiers, making them killing machines. Meaning when you say go and kill and murder, that you don't necessarily ask, hey, is this the person I'm supposed to be murdering? You're turning them into a soldier. You're turning them into this kind of weapon. They're saying when these guys come back from the killing and the murdering and the things that they were doing abroad for the government that's in power, what do you do with them? What do you do with them? And they had nothing to do with him. Like that guy, they figured we can't fix him. So there's that. They're not that far off in regards to soldiers. You have some of these guys with post-traumatic stress injury and all this other stuff. Something happens where a bell rings and they flip out like they're in the middle of a war zone. You've left these people behind. I'm not talking about the number of people who are poverty and homeless after coming back from war, incapable of dealing with the world they're in based on the things that they've seen. We leave these people to the side. I mean, there's support the troops, support the troops. Well, support the troops by not turning that guy into that tool in the first place and being able to deal with them when they come back. Meaning whatever treatment is necessary in order to try to break them out that post-war thing. Exposure therapy is one of the things that have helped, where exposing the person to the trauma over and over and over again to desensitize them to it. But that's not one of those things that takes place. Usually those people are left to their own devices, with the exception of like the VA or something like that. It's like support the troops.
Well, I've used those tactics on myself, as far as overcoming my fear of heights.
Yeah.
Like I would just expose myself to it over and over, and it's decreased.
Yeah, it goes away after a certain point. Don't go.
And as far as
yeah, you don't want to go to. Go ahead and say it. I'm sorry.
As far as the PTSD and all that, we have to remember that episode was written in the early '90s or something.
Yeah.
And Platoon came out a couple of years earlier, and Born on the 4th of July came out, and it's a topic that, despite recent these incidents, given that we've had these massive wars since then, and the topic just isn't really treated with the same kind of.
It's ignored.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's ignored.
It's ignored. You would think that media would be like, hey, maybe we should not just say support the troops. Maybe we should actually support the troops. They don't do that. It's ignored. That stuff. Like, part of the reason that, and I'll end it on this, the difference between Vietnam and now. Like, you have this anti-war movement in Vietnam where they were blowing shit up. You had people setting off bombs and pipe bombs. You had, people thinking the country was being torn apart just based on the things that were taking place, particularly all these people fighting wars. There was a scene that Chris Hedges talks about where Nixon is like in the White House, and you have all these people, and they put buses in front of the White House, and Nixon is like, Henry, they're going to come and get us. It's like they're going to break through the doors and come and get us. As opposed to today, where the president goes into one country after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next, expanding those things to 7 wars. Donald Trump takes over the apparatus and continues this illegal behavior. The media says nothing about it. The public says nothing about it. Like that's an amazing thing. Like, they did have anti-war rallies. Like, back during, I think a year ago today, they had this massive anti-war protest. I mean, 14 years ago today, they had this massive anti-war protest. This is one of these days, like based on the Iraq War, where you have millions of people marching. At some point, those millions of people went home and ate their Cheerios, and that was the end of it. I guess they looked at Obama was elected. The world is good. Let's call it a day. 1%, I think it's 1 or 2% of the American public is in the military. That's it. When you severed, like calling these people in for the draft, you severed the interest. People were like, well, shit, I'm not fighting that war, so I can say support the troops sitting on my ass at home watching TV. The president at that point had an army, and the president could do whatever he wanted with that army. And because it only affected 1 or 2% of the population, they checked out of the process. So, they just about it.
You've been on here for 3 hours, but there's a lot to talk about there. just as a couple of quick points.
Go for it.
Like, I think that labeling these wars as Trump's war or Obama's war, etc., misses the entire point.
Oh, agreed.
And the second point was I forgot. Have a good afternoon, dude.
I agree on the first point, though.
I'll call in again.
I agree on the first point. Like, that's people would say, well, I think the Iraq War was Bush's war, but at the same token, the next presidents that came in line for the most part just advanced that war and expanded that war to all these other different locations. It's like you can't say it's Obama's or Trump's when all of them, both parties, have been just as obsequious to keeping this thing going.
See, that's incorrect. That was not Bush's war. That was Kissinger's war. That plan had been in place for a long time.
Come on.
If you ever look it up, look up the Kissinger doctrine.
No. I understand that part. I'm saying I understand the sense of Republican dogma, like this idea of what is it called, revitalization, or the plan to revitalize, under where Newt Gingrich was some of the people that wrote that stuff, where they came up with this idea of revitalizing the Middle East by destroying the Middle East, ending up with Iran. I understand that. I'm saying, but the avatar of that, like at the end of the day, the people who did it, like not thunk it up, but the people who actually did it was the Bush administration, and they sold that on the premise of a lie. I mean, that is what took place. You may say that the thing that was in Bush that was going, I don't think Bush could spell Kissinger, let alone knew that the Kissinger thing took place. Now, Cheney might have been aware enough to know, and people around him. But come on, certainly that was Bush's war.
I disagree. Like, again, look up the Kissinger doctrine. While Bush, I'm sure Bush was aware of who Kissinger was. But, you know, even if he wasn't, he didn't need to know in order to sign off on what the fuck ever once it was put in front of him.
I'm being derisive when I say he can't spell it. I mean, I think Bush is a fucking idiot, so I have no idea what Bush knows. I think you had a bunch of neocons who was essentially running the show, and I think his neocons would say, do this or do that, and he would follow those particular things.
Oh, dude, Mrs. Thomas is yelling at us. I'm going to go.
That's funny.
She's mad. Oh, wash your goddamn clothes.
All right, guys. I am going to end this. This has been over 3 hours. And like I said, I had no intention of this being over 3 hours. I had no intention of this being over an hour. So, guys, I want to thank you all for showing up. I appreciate you guys for being part of this. I appreciate you guys for calling in. I appreciate you guys for being patrons. I appreciate you guys doing the super catch. I appreciate the fact that you sit here and listen to me talk about these things in the first place. So thank you very much. If you enjoy the content, I don't remember if I said this. So if you enjoy it, feel free to support on Patreon. Feel free to donate a super cash. Feel free to like and share the videos. Thank you all very much. Have a good one, guys. Where's my mouse?